The Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen's Louisiana High School Football Playoff Prediction Show is presented by Madine's Collision Center. Take control, choose Madine's. Gross Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Tire Company, the tires you need, the service you want. And Harvey Autos, the name you have trusted for years.
Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I am your host for today, Jace LeJeune. For the second week in a row, we've done this video podcast, and I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in and helped download the show on Podbean and share it on YouTube for our first show out. Considering it was the first time, I thought it was a success. So, yeah, Lee, it was a really good debut for our first video podcast. I think
it was good. We weren't invisible. You know? I mean, you could see us. You saw two people, so I'm happy to be back doing it, and I'm excited, and I know we're going to be at a location pretty soon doing our remotes, which are going to be able to get better every week. And Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. I know your dad used to tell you that growing up, but I do think that people want to see quality of the show, and that's the information that we provide, and I think it'll be good again today.
Yeah, it was really a crazy week in that first round playoffs for the LHSAA football playoffs, and really getting crowds back for the first time, because COVID happened last year, and really not to say that home field was paid a difference last year or made a difference last year, but you can tell this year with everybody coming back and really sitting out last year because of COVID. I mean, home field playoff advantage really means something with everybody coming back after years sitting out.
And I think we're getting good weather. I mean, that's the key. I think kids can handle cold. Cold's okay. I think you can handle maybe some sprinkles, but we don't want any showers all night long. We don't want the fields muddy. We want dry fields. We want really perfect football. Friday night, the game I went to in Baton Rouge, I think the temperature was like 60, which was perfect. So that's great football weather, especially kids in pads. They love 50 to 60 degree weather instead of 90. Or 99.
Yeah. Tell us the football game you went to this Friday. I know there are a lot of playoff games this past week. Which playoff game did you go see?
I stayed locally. I went to see Parkview Baptist play St. Michael's. Went to see a couple of friends of mine that I've known for a long time, and I went to see their kids play. No business involved, just watching, their kids, a chance to see them grow up over the years. Saw them play when they were playing, I don't know if you call it Breck football or whatever, Catholic League football, when they were little bitty, right? So, what's unfortunate about the playoffs, Jason, I think the parents watching will agree, is somebody's got to lose and then it's over. Like, when I say over, not the game, their career's over. And it's
most of them.
It's a very emotional night. And I think the toughest part of that game was walking off the field, going on the field, and the team that lost. Emotionally, those parents crying and those kids crying, and these kids have been playing all their lives.
Right.
And a lot of their dads have coached them or helped do the fields or buying their first helmet when they're like 8 or 9. And so, it's a lot to take in, and people don't realize that unless you're involved in athletics. But that was tough. It's tough to see that.
Even the guys that will play college football and possibly beyond, they'll always say, going back to Friday nights, that's different.
Nothing like it.
It's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's probably the most team sport you'll ever see again, and that's high school football. And college football is not as team oriented like it used to be.
Right.
Especially the pros.
And that's a professional job.
Right.
So this is the purest form of football. It's high school football.
Look, the team gets to eat a team meal, 2.5 hours before the game in the cafeteria usually. with parents, moms cooking food, and you get in a line and you get your food you can digest for a couple hours there before the game, and you're hanging out with your buddies, and I guess you got the radio set on like you had earlier, Jace. And, your dad, mom, your grandfather, your grandmother, your aunts and uncles, your sisters, your brothers get a chance to see you play, and they can afford the tickets.
Right. Yep.
Tickets are not $40 a piece.
Yeah, that's just what they say, Lee. Just high school football is just the purest form of football, and yeah, there's only 1 year if you get your senior year of high school football, so you have to enjoy it. And I know it's going to even be emotional if you win every single game and play in the state championship, because sooner or later it's going to be your last game. So, but that's the beauty of high school football, and we'll talk about these emotions when we get to the brackets right now, starting with Class 1A. And before I really break down 1A and we talk about some of the teams and everything, think about this. If you're a higher seeded team, and you talk about all these teams being sleepers last week, 21 higher seeded teams lost last week. So it's not a guarantee if you are the higher seed that you're going to advance and move to the next round.
Well, look, power of schedule. I mean, look, I understand, coaches want the PowerPoints, and I understand how this is played out. It doesn't mean you're the best team in your classification. A lot of these teams have it playing one another from South and North Louisiana, and so maybe their schedule might be tough for their local schedule, but maybe it's not as good as the other part of the state. Vice versa, it could be the southern part of the state might be a little stronger in 1A, or 2A might be a little stronger in North Louisiana. So, you really don't get the big dogs until you actually get in the playoffs and have to start playing teams that are maybe 18 or 19, and they're really like a 5.
Right. So let's see how 1A stacks up. But we're talking about upsets for the most part. Seedings held fair, so not really a lot of upsets in that first round. So here are your second round matchups. Number 1, Logansport, who had a bye, will face off number 16, Arcadia. They got revenge on East Iberville after losing to them in the playoffs a couple years ago. Then Bazille, they had a 52-12 victory over Magnolia School. They'll play Delta Charter. Delta Charter had a bye, and now will host Bazille. Soto Charter, they had a bye, and they're going to host their first ever playoff game against West St. John. If Delta Charter and Slaughter Charter both win, this will be the first time both those young programs have made the quarterfinals. So huge games for both those programs. Number 13, East Beauregard. High scoring game the week before, 50-40. They defeated Maryville. Well, they got a tough task as they have number 4, Oak Grove. Oak Grove is going to have to host that playoff game coming off a bye. Now look at the bottom side of the bracket. Number 3, Grand Lake. They had a bye to a lot of byes in that first round for 1A. Number 3, Grand Lake hosts number 14, Oberlin. Grand Lake trying to get back to the state championship after they made a Cinderella run last year. Number 6, Haynesville against number 11, Lincoln Prep. Lincoln Prep's trying to make their first quarterfinal trip since 2009. It was going to be a tough task as they face off against Haynesville. Both these two teams played earlier this year, and Haynesville had their way 43-12. Number 7, LaSalle plays number 10, White Castle. Probably the most, top to bottom, probably the best matchup in terms of teams in the next round. You can make a case, number 7, LaSalle, and number 10, White Castle. And then the final matchup, number 15, Northwood Lena. How about this, Lee? Coach Tommy Moore led the Gators of Northwood Lena to their first ever playoff win. So congratulations to Northwood Lena and the Gators. They were 0-7 prior. Well, they have another huge task playing against number 2, Homer. So those are your second round Class 1A playoff matchup. So, Lee, I guess we can make things easier. Let's talk about the top side of the bracket with Logansport, Arcadia, Bazille, Delta Charter, Slaughter Charter, West St. John, and East Beauregard, Oak Grove. Any notes that you want to take away from those matchups on the top side of the bracket?
Well, Logansport is a very good one. I mean, they're a deserving one, and they're very big on the OD line. They're actually 4A big in size. Jacob Contrario has been on the cover of our magazine. Receiver. They have Javian Claybrooks, one of the best junior receivers in the state. He's really an all-purpose guy. 220, 6'1", runs 4.5. And then you got Arcadia that's very young, Jace. They're led by Michael Harris, a 4-year starter on OD line. Bazille is led by Joshua Ortiz, receiver. Chase Freeman, who's a receiver. They need a big game against Delta Charter. Hey, I want to brag on Delta Charter. They've got 3 running back fullbacks that are phenomenal seniors this year. Curtis Bullocks, Jared Barron, and also Peyton Roberts. That's 3 guys that you got to stop in the game. It's going to be tough. I think Delta Charter is a very good 8. That's to me, that is the most closest game on talent for 2 teams. And then you're talking about Slaughter making their first playoff win this past week. West St. John is loaded with talent, and their defense is loaded. And the task for Slaughter is going to be able to score points. They haven't played a team like West St. John yet. And they're led by Caleb Edwards, a linebacker who's committed, I think, to UL.
Right.
Jason August will be committed to somebody soon as a D tackle. Tylen Pierre is another D lineman that's going to get to a college. And Joshua Ellis. Now, think of this. 1A, four guys on defense that'll go college. Joshua Ellis is a linebacker that will also sign. So that's a tough defense to face. So that you're talking about the top chart of the bracket. So,
and then I guess you want to make your many predictions there in the top bracket, or you want to move to the bottom side of the bracket?
I'm still going Logansport, to be in the finals and to get, and then Oak Grove, obviously, when we get to Oak Grove.
Right. So let's go to the bottom side of the bracket, and we'll talk about those games individually. Grand Lake, Oberlin, Haynesville, Lincoln Prep, LaSalle, White Castle, and Homer, Northwood, Lena.
These are some good games. Starting with Oak Grove, East Beauregard. East Beauregard had a phenomenal season for their program. Kane Atkinson's a good player for them, a running back. Russell Rush, a big lineman. He's 330, 6'1". Oak Grove, Jackson Bradley. I've been bragging about him, a freshman quarterback. He's not a freshman. If you don't see a roster, Jace, he looks like he's in college. But he's only 14 years old, 6'3", 200 pounds, has a 70-yard arm. And we're talking about Arch Manning and Holstein and all these quarterbacks. He's the one that people need to talk about more in the future. In Oak Grove's defense, Caleb Proctor's a man-child in high school. And in Grand Lake, they're runner-up last year. Oberlin has got a good little team. They're not getting a lot of traction, a lot of promotions, but beware of Oberlin could actually win this game. They got a big lineman named Addison Boatley, who's 6'4", about 250. And Jordan Addis at receiver. Lincoln Prep, Haynesville, that's a toss-up to me. It's a rematch. You told me that, Haynesville won the first one big time, but Haynesville's not the old Haynesville. They're not loaded and deep on players. It's not that they ever had 50 or 60, but they always had 30. This year's the same 15 kids playing, and it's the same with Lincoln Prep. They're not very deep. Remember this name. You know this name already, Lincoln Prep, this big lineman.
Right.
Amani Marcel, 6'3", 360.
Yeah.
And can move. He's an OD lineman for Lincoln Prep. He's a senior to keep an eye on. And then Haynesville has a good little quarterback, Kyle Woodward. A senior. He game manages. He does everything that Coach Franklin wants him to do. And that's what Haynesville's always been.
Yeah, they've always done it over the years.
Yeah, run the ball, run the clock out, and score a few points and win the game. And then White Castle, I told you last week, that's one of the most talented teams I've ever seen them have in the history of the school, and that's not good for LaSalle. And then Homer, very talented. They've got great players. I want to mention some of their guys. I didn't do that last week. Kashawn Kidd's their quarterback, receiver. He's 4'5" guy. Desfonte Camp is a big-time receiver, 6'4", 190. And then John Watts has been starting for 5 years at fullback linebacker at 5'9", 240. He's a tank.
Okay, so before we move on to a commercial break, I tell you, I'm gonna give my picks like Speedy Gonzalez. I have Logansport advancing. I have Delta Charter. Actually, I have Delta Charter being Bazille. I have West St. John being Slaughter. I have Oak Grove being East Beauregard. I have Grand Lake being Oberlin. I have Haynesville being Lincoln Prep. I have. I'm gonna go with LaSalle. I'm gonna go with LaSalle. Being pulled the S. Even though it was a 7-10, I really consider that an upset. But I'm gonna go with LaSalle to pull off the upset. And I have Homer defeating Northwood Lee. So that's what I have going to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and Delta Charter to me is the sleeper team in this bracket. I watched them play. They got a good team, Jace. People think of Delhi Charter. There's two, Delta and Delhi Charter, and Delta Charter is very loaded in their senior group. So it's a team that you might say somehow can get there. I don't know if they can beat a Logansport,
right?
But it's a team to keep an eye on.
With no upsets in the first round in Class 1A, we'll see if there are any upsets in the second round. Both our teams for the state champions are still in it, which is Oak Grove. Yeah. So we agreed on that. Well,
Grand Lake, too.
Yeah, and Grand Lake going there, too. And, really the top 4 teams, we have them going to the semis, and they're still in. But we'll see if 1A can create some chaos. But speaking of more chaos, we'll have some more brackets coming up for you. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune, filling in for Lee as the host today. And Lee is really taking my spot today, so we're flip-flopping here. But we're talking about the second round of the Class 2A playoffs coming up. But before we do that, Grand Lake made the state championship last year, and it was really because of a transfer coming in from Barb High School, and he is a giant amongst men.
Yeah.
That's Bryant Williams that you want to talk about.
Yeah, Bryant Williams is 6'7.5", 320, and he is a wall. And then you also have Brecheen. So their offensive line's intact. That's what made them this past year and again this year. So don't count out Grand Lake. They just got to, get it done at quarterback and on defense.
Let's talk about Class 2A and talk about the second round matchup. So if you didn't watch or keep track of any of the scores, well, there's going to be breaking news to you throughout all these scores in Class 2A. So second round matchup, number 1, Manny plays number 17, East Louisiana. Remember, East Louisiana, as a 17 seed, they won on the road, which means they'll host a playoff game in the second round, but you have to play Manny. And a little note from Manny, London Williams, he ran for 235 yards, 3 touchdowns in the win against Independence. And his counterpart, Jeremiah James, another running back for Manny, had 16 carries for 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. So
yeah, the secret behind those 2 running backs are the big guys, and I want to mention them, Jace. Garrett Foster, James Hickman, and Corey Jones. Those are 3 senior O-linemen that are all around 250, 260. And the run game is the bread and butter for Manny and Jess Curtis.
Next, second round matchup. This should be a good one. Number 8, Rose Pine, and number 9, Red River. And talking about that game, Red River, their quarterback, Trey Smith, he only played for like a half, but he threw for 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then his receiver, Antron Williams, had 4 catches. 3 of them went for touchdowns. Talk about Rose Pine. Ethan Fry, Grant Dakota. He's like a Superman, like a Batman Robin duo they have in the backfield. They're great, but their defense only gave up 122 yards to Kentwood. That's pretty impressive.
It's going to be a very tough task, though, because Red River is the most skilled team in all of 2A. I mean, I've watched them for 3 years. They got Devin McDonald at 6'4", 190, Jace. It's a guy that can fly at receiver and DB. Stanley Maxey runs a 4.5. Stanley Sibley runs a 4.5. Douglas Roberson is a great receiver. And then Trey Smith, you mentioned the quarterback. And then, another guy to mention is Braden Troll at fullback linebacker for Rose Pine. It's going to be a tough task for Rose Pine. Like I said, Red River can line up against anybody skill-wise.
Number 5, North Caddo plays number 21, DeQuincy. How about DeQuincy pulling off the upset at Poor Allen? Because of that, they get to host a playoff game, but they'll have to play an explosive offense, number 5, North Caddo. Everybody knows about Omarion Miller, but KJ Black is the guy that you talked about as well, and he had a kickoff return for a touchdown, had a rushing touchdown, and then 4 other players scored at least 1 touchdown in that win against Springfield.
I'm going to mention a possible upset here. I think DeQuincy could beat them because they have 2 running backs that are phenomenal, in Taji Caesar and Hudson Snyder. I mean, they're both 200 pounds, Jace. They'll just pound on you, wear you out. And I really think they can run on North Caddo. Caddo's good on D-line. I mean, they've got Christian Hill and Kentrell Protter at linebacker. But DeQuincy's one of them 21s that's really higher and better than that.
And that's a good point you made, Lee, because the last time DeQuincy won the playoff game was 2018, and they made a pretty good run to the quarters, and they were a 20-plus seed. So that's what happened last time.
They have a really good team.
And then the last game on the top side of the bracket, number 13, Winfield. They just defeated Delcom. I got it right this time, Lee. And then
there you go. All those Cajuns will love you.
Oh, yeah, they'll love me this time. And then number 4, Avoyelles defeated Bunkie 42-7. Avoyelles is one of those most frustrating teams to play against because they do not want to punt the football.
Right.
They want to onside kick it every single time, go for 2 every single time. So Avoyelles is one of the toughest teams to play in regards to that.
Well, here's the deal. They're getting out of district. And I think it gets tough for Avoyelles because, when you pack them in and you run it every play, you know what Winfield does really well? They stack them up on D-line. They stack their 7, 8 guys, and they've got some big guys on defense. So Avoyelles, this is going to be their best defense they've faced all year, non-district. And there's 2 or 3 guys, 6'3", 4 for Winfield, and they're young guys. I don't get their names out. We can't talk about everybody, but Winfield, I think, is going to pull the upset here.
Oh, I like that. Pulling up the upset there. And there's been a crazy first round for 2A with a lot of upsets in the first round. Now, let's go to the bomb side of the bracket. Number 3, General Trask. They're on a mission. They lost in the semifinals to the eventual Class 2A champion last year in Manny. They got by Northeast pretty easily, 54-6. And Welsh, another upset over a 14 seed, 23-13. They defeated South Plaquemine, and now Welsh, because of that, they'll host a playoff game, and General Trask will have to go on the road in the second round.
Welsh is no slouch, Jace. They're not a 19. This is a top 7 team, and they've got great tradition in the last few years. And General Trask, this might be one of those teams they might overlook, because they've played the Mangums and all these other great programs, but Don't look past Welsh with Cohen Fontenot, their running back, who's like tackling a Mack truck, okay? And then you got Brady Hall, Reed Davis on the O-line block, and they have a heck of an O-line. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'll still take Trask. It's going to be close.
Also, talking about upsets, Kinder, and we talked about St. Helena being one of your sleeper teams.
I like this game that you're about to mention.
Yeah, and they fell 22-20. But Kinder, remember, they were a 20-something seed last year. They made it all the way to the state championship game in Class 2A. And Brett Fusilier, that program, they've always known to making state championship runs and going far in the playoffs. Huge upset against St. Helena, 22-20, and then A-Meet taking care of business, 48-0 in the first round against Delhi Charter. But if you're A-Meet, you can't overlook Kinder.
No, and A-Meet, I don't think we've seen A-Meet play their best game yet. I mean, they look like an NFL team, Jace. I mean, A-Meet goes 300 pounds, 6'2", 3'4" on O&D line. They're different linemen, and Earl Jackson's been a starting running back there for 4 years. They've got 2 6'5" DNs that run 4.5 in the 40 that are 220, 230. I mean, A-Meet is just, if they decide to play the way they're capable of playing, nobody can beat them. But let me tell you something. What is it about these small schools in Lake Charles? Welsh, Kinder, Grand Lake. Man.
Yeah, it's some good football.
You know what I mean? All the Hurricanes, everything, these teams are still fighting. They're hungry, and God bless those kids because, those 1A and 2A schools in Lake Charles are kicking butt right now.
Talk about get your popcorn ready for this second round matchup. Jonesboro Hodge and Mangum. Jonesboro Hodge, Tajri Malone, he passed for 6 touchdowns on Friday night against Oakdale. And this is a pretty cool stat, Lee. Tajri Malone's grandfather, Michael Malone, led Jonesboro Hodge to a state championship. So that'll be pretty cool if he gets to lead that same team to a state championship. But Mangum, like we mentioned, Mangum's always going to be tough. They're always going to be in the thick of things. Now, it was a little bit of a struggle for them against Capital, but they found a way to pull away and get that victory 28-6. But it sets up a really good second-round matchup at Jonesboro Hodge.
This is a guy before your time, Jace, and he was one of the best players in the state. His name was Norman Bradford. He was a running back, 6'2", 220. He was Player of the Year back when I don't know what class they were back in the day, 2A or 3A, but Jonesboro Hodge, this is one of the most talented teams since Charles Scott played for them about 15 years ago. And they've got some great. Tajri Malone is 6'4", 190 pounds, great player. Might be a receiver in college. But they also have Jamarius Lewis, who's a 6'2 receiver.
And he had himself a really good game in the first round, too.
Devontae Mose, who's one of the top track guys in the state. He's 6'1". They all look 6'2", 6'3". They are at receiver and DB. And they're just, they're just kind of flying under the radar statewide. And you talk about Mangum. Their defensive line is the reason they're here. They got 3 guys over 270. They're all 6 foot to 6'2". It's like running into a brick wall. And so the key with Jonesboro Hodge, can they throw the ball? Can they get big plays? Because you're playing like the Baltimore Ravens when you play Mangum. I mean, they're big, they're stout, they're fast, and they're strong.
And that's probably going to decide the game who is more efficient. Is it the Jonesboro Hodge offense or is it the Mangum defense? That might decide who comes out of that one. And then the last matchup, number 2, Loreauville. They're still undefeated 49-0 after a win over 31 West St. Mary. They'll have to play Franklin, a statement win over D'Arbonne Woods Charter, was having a really good season this year, 54-7. And we talk about all the great players that have been through Loreauville with Zy Alexander, who's playing for Southeastern. That leads the team in interceptions right now with 6. And then the 2 players I'm sure you'll talk about. There's really, I think, 2 sets of brothers. You have the Jacob brothers and the Simon brothers too, and both of them have both those sets of brothers really had really good games the first round.
And Ethan,
whether
it's Simone or
right.
We want to make sure we get one of them right.
Sure.
But Ethan is really talented, and I want to mention another kid that's been starting 5 years for Loreauville, Gage Romero. He's an OD lineman. I think he's a fullback, 1AA at the next level, but he's about 5'10", 240. Jace, he runs about a 4.7 all day, and he's like trying to move a line car that's got bricks in the back seat. You cannot move him. I mean, he is just a player, a football player. And that's why Loreauville is always in this position the last 2 or 3 years, because they only have about 25, 30 kids, but all of them can play. They bring it.
Yeah, you talk about, especially Simon or Simone, whatever way that's pronounced. And then, Caleb Jacob and Colin Jacob, too. Caleb, the quarterback, had 4 touchdowns. Colin, the receiver, his brother, had 2 catches, 1 for a touchdown. So Loreauville was really good this year. And I'm going to go really quick with my predictions. I have number 1, I have Manny advancing, and that's our state champion that we picked. So they're still in it. I have, this will be a good one. I have Rose Pond advancing to the next round. I have North Caddo being DeQuincy, so I'm actually going to go against you there. But should be good. I have Avoyles advancing. General Trice. Now, upset alert. Amite should be on upset alert, but I think Amite will pull off and get the victory. And I have Mangum defeating Jonesboro Hodge. I like defense at this time of year. Defense wins championships. I like Mangum advancing, and then I have Loreauville defeating Franklin.
Well, I kind of mentioned who I wanted during my little deal, but I think Manny in the end is going to win it.
Yep. So our pick's still alive for 2A too. So,
but there's a lot of good teams for that second team. If you're agreeing with me, right? If Loreauville, I'm pulling for Loreauville to get to the state championship game again. Just for emotional reasons for that town. I mean, less than 3,000, less than 2,500 people in Loreauville, Jace.
Yep.
And everybody in the town, like literally. All 2,200 or whatever it is now goes to the game.
And Terry Moore has done a great job with that program.
Great job.
He really has.
Former Cecilia head coach and Bro Bridge head coach. Great guy.
Yep, could be. We'll see who comes on the bomb side of the bracket. I mean, there's like everybody that's still in it on the bomb side. I can see all of those teams on the bomb side make a run.
And look, the most talented team in here is number 9, Red River, outside of Manny. I mean, Red River, talent-wise, is a 2. Yep. They don't have the record, PowerPoints and all that. But Red River, it wouldn't shock me if they made a run.
No, that was a toss-em too. I mean, I can see Rose Pond.
And then Amite. Amite's very talented as well.
Yeah, it should be a really good bracket. When we come back, we'll talk about Class 3A. We knew that was probably the wild, wild west of all the playoff brackets, and it's proven to be so. But you're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Brecheen. We'll take a quick break.
If you need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, go see Medine's Collision Center located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. Your Baton Rouge Accident Advisors.
All right, welcome back to the Sports Counter Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I am your host for today, Jace LeJeune. And Lee, let's talk about Class 3A. And we know coming in that we can see a variety of teams coming out of Class 3A, and things are going to be certainly interesting in the second round because we'll see a lot of like state championship caliber games in the second round. So it shows how crazy Class 3A is.
Well, Sterlington's the team to beat. I've seen them. They got a power running game that nobody can stop in North Louisiana. Look, if you can't stop a 3A team in North Louisiana, it kind of gets easier for them south. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, Abbeville has got their best team in 25 years.
Yep.
They're the real deal, Jace. They have a quarterback who's going to be D1 next year, and they've got a couple of other great players on their team. We'll go through the players.
Sure.
And then Union
We'll
Parish,
go game by game.
Union Parish is a phenomenal team, but there's a lot of, the Church Points, the St. James, the Champ, Madison Prep from last year. Even the Westlake has made a run this year and improved their program. Lutcher, you can't count Lutcher out. Bugaloosa has improved. And you look at Wassman. I saw Wassman this year play, and we'll talk about their players. But, yeah, every game on here is brutal.
Let's talk about game by game, and you can give your thoughts on that particular matchup after I talk about it real briefly. But Sterlington, they'll obviously advance to the second round, as we talked about. They defeat Frederick A. Douglass 56-12. They'll play Westlake. I mean, you can say it's an upset, but I really don't see it as an upset over Grant. And Westlake won pretty convincingly 45-22. In fact, this is Westlake's first playoff win since 2017. John Richardson, I don't know what it is about Coach Richardson, but he makes runs in the playoffs, whether it was his days at Welsh or now at Westlake. Sets up, should be a really good one at Westlake since Westlake won on the road in the first round. Sterlington and Westlake will play each other second round.
Sterlington, I want to mention some guys, Jace, that are not mentioned much, and it's the background of their running game. Tony Rivera is a fullback for them. That's about 225, about 5'10". He is one of the best blockers in the state besides the fullback at Catholic High that we'll talk about later on of Baton Rouge. But Caleb Andrews, a defensive tackle, and Jacob Green, their kicker. If they get in a close game, this guy's got a D1 leg, but their offensive line is huge. And again, Sterlington, congratulations to John Richardson and Westlake. It's been a while to be in the second round. It's been a few years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's a good climb. And if they lose this game, they've done phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, man, that's already strides. And, his second year, this is his second year with the program, so already great strides. And I'll put him in the conversation for Coach of the Year this year for what he's done for Westlake and making them a contender. Now let's go to probably the highest, marquee matchup when you look at Class 3A. And this is the only game on a Thursday, by the way, which shows you that everybody's paying attention to this game coming up. That is actually the last two Class 3A state champions. St. James won 2 years ago in Class 3A, and Madison Prep won last year on their run. Madison Prep coming off a 40-6 victory over Kaplan. St. James coming off a 34-20 victory over Northwestern. You talked about Shaz Preston. Well, he showed up. 3 touchdowns in that game against Northwestern. You'll see Shaz Preston, St. James, Coach Valdez, Coach Landry Williams. He's actually known Coach Valdez for a long time. And their star players, Zion, Chris, and Quincy Wiggins. It should be a great one. Only in the second round. This is like a state championship caliber game, only in the second round.
Yeah, this is going to be a battle of the will of who wins the D-line, O-line. Both of these teams are physical. And Madison Prep, Jace, this is probably their most physical team in last year. Everybody talks about Wiggins, Quincy Wiggins, the big DN, who's 6'7", who's phenomenal. But they got other guys on defense. And the guys that stepped up this year for this team at Madison Prep are young. And they didn't really play as much last year. Cameron Coleman, a defensive end, 6'2", about 230. Chris Hughes, a new receiver for them. Kamaria Murray, a receiver corner. And Irvin Nicholson, a linebacker. These are guys you don't hear about or people don't talk about. But the defense of Madison Prep is the reason they're in this position. Their offense is young outside of Chris. They're really young guys.
Next playoff matchup, number 5, Church Point. survive. Really played really well against Marksville, and their defense is showing why they might have the best defense in Class 3A. And Donaldsonville getting revenge on Patterson. Patterson defeated Donaldsonville earlier this season, and it was an overtime game. But this time, Donaldsonville got their revenge and then some, 48-14. Pretty decisive, by the way, in the win against Patterson. That sets up Donaldsonville against Church Point. Donaldsonville, since they won on the road, they'll host Church Point, but Church Point's defense is as tough as it comes.
I saw Church Point in the spring, and I think they're well coached. They got Andy Brasenio, who's a good running back. They've got Theron Guillory, Chandler Guillory, Jakari Landry, Armstead Mouton. These are all seniors. They're very young, Jace, believe it or not. They have a good D-line. Well, let me tell you this. Donaldsonville is the best 21 I've ever seen. This is the best Donaldsonville team I've seen in my 35 years of covering high school football for them.
Wow.
And that includes when they had Jarvis Green, Jason Green, and Howard Green. All right.
That's amazing.
This is a heck of a Donaldsonville team. You might see this 21 win it all in the end. I mean, they're that good. They're led by Trevon Brown, Malik Robertson, Robert, as they call Clark Kent, Superman.
Kent,
Randall Otis, Jamarcus Miller, and Demir Robinson. They're all college prospects, and I'm not even naming the linemen. But, and then you look at the Church Point toughness. These two teams, get your popcorn. If you want to see some hits for 60 minutes, this is going to be the most physical game outside of St. James Madison Prep in this whole bracket.
Do you have an edge for the? So I guess you're calling.
I'm going Donaldsonville.
You're going Donaldsonville.
Yeah,
okay. St. James Madison Prep. Who do you think in that evenly matched game thinks comes out on top?
Flip a coin.
Flip a coin. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Robert Valdez doesn't lose a lot of playoff games, and he gets his team ready all year long for this stage. And their defense is the real deal. Now, the Hurricane set them back like a lot of schools in New Orleans and St. Tammany Parish and Baton Rouge, but I don't think you've seen the best of them this year. I saw them back in the Jamboree.
Yeah.
They are legit. Outside of Chaz, they got some great players.
Right.
And here's the deal. Madison Prep's defense is also very good, by the way. So you might see two really good offenses not do a lot.
Because of the defenses they're facing.
Chaz Preston might not have a big game, and you might not see Chris have a huge game. Look, Chris beat St. Thomas more this year.
Yeah.
But these are two defenses that will shut down great players. And whoever fumbles the ball, whoever has a turnover, I'm going to flip a coin right now and say Madison Prep wins
it. Okay. I'm actually agreeing with you there. I have a slight
I'm talking
advantage.
about a coin flip on this one.
Right. And I think what makes a difference is Chris. I think Chris makes a couple more plays, and that will make the difference. But I think it's going to be a really good football game.
We don't know who turns the ball over. You just never know. That's who loses, I believe.
Probably the most eye-opening game in that first round was what West Feliciana did first round. They defeated Jules Sumner on the road and shut Jules Sumner out 38-0. This is actually West Feliciana's first playoff win since they won the state championship back in 2017. Iowa, they take care of their business. They defeated a Bossier team 37-6. Was having a really good year. They're trying to change things up and spreading the football out. And you're doing a real good job of getting a lot of basketball players coming in and using their athletes. So a good year for Coach Johnson and Bossier, but they fall short to a very balanced Iowa football team. This is their first playoff win since 2017. So both time first wins in a while for both Iowa and West Feliciana.
You got a 20 against a 4, and this game will be close. Iowa is loaded with talent for their program. They've never had this kind of skill talent ever at Iowa. They have 4 guys that will sign college scholarships, and that's not the norm for Iowa. On the other side, I watched West Feliciana recently. Jace, they're really young, and what's really take my hat off to the coaching staff at West Feliciana, they had a lot of major injuries. They had a running back that didn't even play this year that was going to be their top running back. They are all sophomores, freshmen, and young juniors. What West Feliciana has done this year is flatly remarkable. Watching them on film, half the guys that were supposed to play this year are either hurt or not eligible. So, again, they're led by LeMay on offense, Aeneas LeMay, and Daniel Willis, 2 receivers, and Pedro Johnson, who plays a lot of defense.
He's a big back,
and they have a big linebacker who's a junior. But West Feliciana has really done one of the best coaching jobs in the state.
Yeah, Hudson Ford, the former Catholic High offensive coordinator, has done a really good job over there. Now let's go to the bottom side of the bracket. Number 3, St. Martinville. This is a team we talked about a lot last week, being a sleeper team, really going and making a run. They defeated McDonald 47-6. And how about this game? Iota going on the road to V.M. Bruley. That's a statement win, 17-7. The key difference in that football game, Lee, Bruley had a pick 6 right before halftime. It was called back for pass interference. Iota kicked a field goal that put them up 10-7. That was the difference in the football game there. And Iota was able to take advantage of that. Now they have a chance to make a Cinderella run and perhaps make another upset against St. Martinville, but St. Martinville is one of the most talented teams in this 3A bracket.
I want to tell you something. When St. Martinville gets off the bus, you know the old saying, they look the part. St. Martinville looks like a college football team, and they're 4-year starters. And all their skill guys are over 6 foot tall. There's no 5'9s, all right? And the guys that are 5'9 can run. But let me mention a big quartet of players because they deserve this. All these guys are going to sign college scholarships when this is over with. Quentin Butler, a defensive tackle, Mandrell Butler, Javin Griffin, an offensive lineman, Kyron LeBlanc, a skill player, Tanner Harrison, and I can go on and on and on. And then Iota. Iota's got Dawson Wallace at quarterback, who's really good.
Very underrated.
And then Owen Harmon, who's a great tight end. He had a touchdown against Bruley. And then you have Tyler Charlotte, who's a great running back. Iota's tough, man. They're tough as nails. And they've got quite an undertaking here to try and beat a talented St. Martinville. I think they're going to give them a game, but I just think St. Martinville's too talented. Look, the last time St. Martinville was in this position, they had Early Doucette at quarterback, who played receiver at LSU. They were not as talented as this team.
And St. Martinville, you mentioned, they have themselves the next really good one coming up at receiver, and Harvey Broussard.
Harvey, and I didn't even mention him. He's a junior, and he's 6'4", and can run as good as anybody in the country. He's up there with Shelton Sampson. He's one of the big dogs for next year. That's
going to be a name to keep an eye on for next year when we talk about the juniors. We're going about to be seniors coming up. Number 6, Lutcher will play number 11, Bogalusa, in the second round. Talk about Bogalusa. What a season led by their head coach, Sal Crutchfield. Their quarterback, Ashton Levi, has 2,600 yards passing, 29 touchdowns so far. You know they're going to throw the football. He's done that over his coaching career. Sal Crutchfield has. Even the Port Sulphur days, he's done that. And then Lutcher, they survived. They got themselves a battle against Carroll. I mean, they needed everything they can get.
I told you, Carroll last week's a good team.
They needed everything they can get. And Carroll playing all those tough teams in North Louisiana, that helped them. They weren't not intimidated by Lutcher, but Lutcher found a way to win. Good teams do that, and now sets up a really good matchup between number 6 Lutcher and number 11 Bogalusa.
Here's the bad news. Bogalusa is as good as Carroll. I watched Bogalusa on film this year. I was expecting a very young team that would be a year away, Jace. They only have 5 or 6 seniors, maybe 5 total. Bogalusa is got like 40 kids in the sophomore junior group that are all world. And Cyril Crutchfield, his best coaching job since South Plaquemines. I mean, this team is one of the sleeper teams in this bracket. They can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Now, Lutcher's got a great young quarterback. Lutcher's got some good running backs. Lutcher's got the fans. I mean, Lutcher's got all that tradition. And I know I spoke to their club this year, their
quarterback club,
which is always hundreds of guys that show up. And, you know, they're under the radar. I told them, I said, you know, y'all going to be in position. And here they are, second round. I'm going with Lutcher Bulldogs because they're a little more experienced than the young Bogalusa team. But I'm going to tell you, if you're a Lutcher fan, you're gonna have to hold your breath. If you thought you were still
in the first round,
this is going to be another battle because Bogalusa's big and they're athletic and they're young, but they don't think they're young.
Next playoff matchup, number 7 Union Parish is a team I actually picked to go all the way to the state championship. They put 60 points on the board against Mansfield in the first round. Gina, McKenna Discovery coach P.J. Sprung has to say, what has to give? We have to play Gina again in the playoffs. It seemed like every year in the playoffs. But it was a close one. Kenner's making strides every single season. And I mean, they hung tough with Gina. 36-21 was the final score. Zy Hunter caught 3 passes for Gina. 2 of them went for touchdowns. And we talk about how good of a quarterback Christian Kraft is. It was not his best game. He did throw 3 picks, but what a career Christian Kraft has had at Kenner's Discovery. And then Gina moves on to the next round to play Union Parish 7 versus 10.
I'm going to tell you what, Gina, great year. It's going to be tough to beat these Union Parish guys. And everybody talks about Trey Holly, and he's run for like 8,000 yards in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Started since his freshman year. He's got another year left. Nobody talks about the Union Parish defense, Jace. They got 4 guys on defense all-state again this year. I know it didn't come out yet, but they'll have at least 4. And these guys look like they could play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if you knew this, but the coach for Union Parish is one of the best strength coaches.
Strength
coaches. Yep. When you see their team come off the bus, they look like a bunch of you ever seen the big, strong guys late at night on ESPN?
Professional weightlifters,
yeah, like
right?
These big bodybuilder guys.
Bodybuilders.
They look like they all bench 500 pounds and can drag a car on top of their head. I'm serious. These guys are just phenomenally strong. And I want to mention 3 defensive players for Union Parish. Trent Meeking, a linebacker DN. Braylon Thomas, a linebacker, 5'8", 220, unbelievable speed. And Blake Ramsey, who looks like the best lineman in the state that no one talks about at 6'3", 260, runs a 4.7, and brings it. And Meeking runs a 4.5 at 230. These guys are like running into, a brick wall. It's going to be tough for Gina and Union Parish. I mean, they're just not built like a lot of your teams.
That's why I love them so far. Like when it gets cold, that weather, that type of weather comes around,
and they're going to run at you.
Offensive line, defensive line,
and they're not going to throw it maybe 3 times a game.
Mm-hmm.
And Cole Dyson, who can run a 4.5 40, their quarterback.
Yep.
When you key in on Holly, and their O-line is 290 and athletic.
Yeah,
I mean, they're athletic guys. I'm telling you, when they line up and their O-line gets in the stance, it looks like Acadiana's O-line in 5A.
I can't imagine how those practices are when that offensive line has to go up against that defense line every day in practice.
That's a battle. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, boy. Now, so you have Union Parish advancing. Okay, so the last matchup is number 2 Abbeville against number 18 Wassman. So Wassman pulled off the upset, based off seeding, 34-29. It was Wassman's first playoff victory in 3 years, and now they have a chance to go to the quarterfinals for the first time since 1996. You talk about Pat Williams Jr. He had 3 touchdown catches in the first half alone in that game against Erath, and they'll host number 2 Abbeville. You talk about one of the greatest coaching jobs by Coach Roderick Moy and just in the state. That is definitely it. This is their best season in quite a while. Actually, they have a chance to go to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2001. It's been a long time, and they're led by Blake Sadler, who had 172 yards rushing, 3 first-half touchdowns. He's already have 2,000 yards rushing and 21 touchdowns this year.
And he's 5'8", 175, but he's tough and strong. And they got a 6'3" junior quarterback that you're going to be hearing about next year. They're big. They're athletic. Abbeville is very good. But let me tell you about Wassman. They're not an 18, Jace. This is another Monroe team that's loaded, and they play a lot of good teams. They're like a top 5 seed. And Pat Williams, some games have 0 touchdowns and no catches because they got other guys. And the Wassman O-line is very good. They're skill guys. When you look at Zay Wooten, when you look at Jordan Jackson at receiver, when you look at Charles Dadd and Sean Hall at linebacker, they're both 220. They're both guys that get up the field, and they're tackling machines. Pat Williams is the son. His dad played in the NFL for 14 years for the Buffalo Bills as a defensive tackle. And like I said, he doesn't even catch the ball some games. And he's 6'5", 220. They have all these options. And they have a junior running back. I'm going to save his name for later, but he's all world. He's about 5'8", 195, and he's like tackling Emmitt Smith. So this is going to be a game of the ages. I'm going with Abbeville. Cinderella team maybe that I picked to make the state championship game, but Wassman's going to give them everything they can handle there.
So to make it easier for you, whoever's the higher seed, that's pretty much who I had. So I had Sterlington advancing, Madison Prep slightly over St. James, Church Point. I had Iowa advancing, St. Martinville advancing, Lutcher advancing, Union Parish advancing, and Abbeville advancing. So whoever was the higher seed, that's pretty much how I drew it up when I started, but things could get a little dicey at the end of the second round. I expect a lot of really close matchups, obviously, and should set up some phenomenal playoff matchups in the quarterfinals.
Well, I can't change my picks, right? I picked last week, but, I like Union Parish or Abbeville. I think I picked Abbeville to make it. And on the other side, I think I picked St. James.
Yeah, you actually picked St. James to win it all, so you should really stick with St. James.
right. I picked Madison Prep on the show.
Right.
But, it's Sterlington. I mean, this is going to be the battle of the trenches, come Friday night. There's some very good OD lines in 3A. I mean, they look 5A, a lot of these teams.
Like I said, there could be plenty of teams that come out of 3A. When we come back, we'll take another commercial break. We'll talk about Class 4A. Will it be in the car or will it be the rest of the company? We'll see. But you're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Treads and Care Tire Company located in Central. The number to call is 331-8144. Family owned and operated since 1971. That's Treads and Care Tire Company.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host for today, Jace LeJeune, along with Lee Brecheen at my side here. He knows pretty much everything that there is in Louisiana high school football, and he's seen all these teams play, and just take your word for it. And definitely look at the football magazine. That's pretty much where we talk to all these coaches before the year. We get all the inside scoop. So there's our magazines right here. As you see, the red is the South version of the magazine. The blue is the North version of the magazine, Louisiana Football Magazine. Now, if you're making bets on the playoff games like we are, I think you need to order a Louisiana Football Magazine copy, because if you're a fan of one school, say, hey, let's say if you're an Abbeville fan and you want to know what Wassman's like, well, buy the magazine, find out, read about Wassman and what they told us before the season and how they rank up, how they match up. So, even though we're still in the playoffs, it's still perfect time to get your Louisiana Football Magazine copy.
Well, a lot of parents don't know maybe till today. So they won't, a lot of them like, oh, I didn't know my kid was in there. And it's good forever when your kid's in there, because you want to get a copy on what we talked about. We got a lot of kids that's profiled by every school in the state. But 4A, it just gets tougher up this hill, Jace.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about it.
We made 3A to be the greatest ever, but 4A is just another mountain to climb.
It used to be in the car and Neville and Warren Easton and everybody else, but now it's
climbing.
Yeah,
there's some teams climbing.
The gap is closing a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
I guess you called this the revenge tour for in the car after losing the state championship game last year. They start off the revenge tour by defeating number 32 Breaux Bridge, their quarterback, and the car's quarterback, A.J. Samuels, drew 3 touchdowns in that victory against Breaux Bridge. They'll have to play number 16 Eunice as they defeated number 17 DeRiver 41-14. These two teams played in the playoffs not so long ago in Class 4A, and the car won that game. But do you see this as a challenge for Endicott, or do you see Endicott advancing with really no problems?
First of all, I think this is a Eunice victory by winning the playoff game. They're very young.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, Andre Vijay used to be the quarterback there. He's the head coach, used to be in our magazine. They're very, very – now, defensively on their front seven, they've got experience. And they can play with Edna Carr for probably about a half because they have a good defense. But they just don't have enough prospects. Let's face it, Edna Carr has 40-something prospects. And you can't key on one person. That's Edna Carr. If you're a D coordinator or you're an offense coordinator and you say, okay, I'm going to key on these 2 guys on offense and these 2 guys on defense, well – you got to key on these 24 on offense and these 24 on defense because they rotate. And I just think it's too much. But, again, Eunice got here. Next year they'll be better. Edna Carr will advance or should advance from this game.
Like you said, Andre Vijay, when you told us before the season, this is a young football team.
Very young.
They graduate everybody that was part of their state championship a couple years back. Yeah. Everybody's gone. So this is a new program.
Let me mention these names, though. They do have good linemen. And Dylan DeBarn at O-line is a D1 guy. Thomas Oglesby on the D-line. Miles Woods is D1 on the D-line. So, I mean, they have some guys, but they don't have any – you tend to wear out. Like, even if you're in the game with Edna Carr, they look at you like, okay, what time is it? They're going to wear out eventually because we're going to just keep bringing in backups that are 6'5", 300 pounds.
second playoff matchup, Carver. They won in what Aaron Dietrich says from Monroe, a squeaker, a squeaker, 17-14. Terrence Lambert kicked a 37-yard field goal with 10 seconds left to give Carver the first round playoff victory. And I know say, hey, the next game, because might be a little biased here, but how about my dad, the Plaquemine Green Devils? They pull off the first round upset against Salmon, 41-27. Kobe Major, their running back, finished with 186 yards and a receiving touchdown. Also, the Green Devils, it was a back and forth game the first 3 quarters, and the Green Devils scored 18 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to secure the victory. Now, my dad and Plaquemine, they have a tough task against Carver. They have the game at home. Carver has a really good defense. They have, I'm sure, a receiver that you're going to talk a lot about, number 3 for them. And, Plaquemine, they're trying to go on a Cinderella run as the Green Devils are undefeated under my dad in his interim. But, Plaquemine plays against Carver. What do you think about that matchup?
First of all, congrats to your dad, to Ron LeJeune, because, beating Salmon, I was big on Salmon all year, Jace. I went and watched them practice in the summer, and they were as good as any team. And, this team that your dad's coached, they didn't think they'd win a game 6 weeks ago, and they went on a 5-game winning streak under your dad. And here they are, man, second round, and they're playing Carver, who's super young. Like, Carver lost a lot off their team last year. So Carver is shocked that they're at this level right now. This is a bonus, right? Because they're going to be better next year. But your dad has to stop the running game, I think, of Carver.
Yeah, Gregory Emery for them is really good.
And Cortez Williams, 2 big-time running backs. And then on defense, Henry Williams is all-world linebacker for them, and Edrin Johnson, a big DN. But they're not a deep team. I think actually Plaquemine has more depth. And I think I told you this. I said, even when things were gloom and doom looking about 8 weeks ago, I said, man, there's some guys on that team that can play. And it's just they came together under your dad, and I just think I think they're going to win this game too.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Now, if they somehow advance Carver, we won't go there.
No,
we'll wait on that one. But let's continue with the top side of the bracket. Westgate, number 5 seed. They defeated John F. Kennedy 26-6. They advanced to the second round. They'll play Leesville, and Coach Robert Causey, actually this year, he actually became the winningest head coach in Leesville program history. So congratulations to Coach Causey. They're going to rely a lot on their star running back, Gallishaw. That is Caleb Gallishaw. He ran for 236 yards and a touchdown last week. And it was a really good football game against Assumption. So Westgate, Leesville, the game is at Westgate. The quarterback, Brennan Landry, is back for Westgate, but they're still playing a 2-quarterback system with Jordan Doucette. And actually, Landry threw a 90-yard touchdown pass to Doucette, so quarterback to quarterback in that game. Westgate, Leesville, give me your thoughts.
Leesville's one of those teams, Jace, that you admire because they get the most out of their ability. Maybe it's because it's at Fort Polk, and these guys have all this discipline, and the coach does a phenomenal job. You just mentioned he became the all-time winningest coach. But when you play Leesville, you got to bring your lunchbox. I don't care if they're 150-pound guys or 200-pound guys, and they're not a big team, but they just believe. So it's one of those believe teams. They're playing Westgate, who has twice the talent they have. But Leesville's beaten teams like this before. And you can't count them out. I'm going to take Westgate, okay, but I want to mention a name. Nathan Mawai. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, that sounds very familiar.
Mawai. That is Kevin Mawai's nephew. That's his brother's son. And he's a linebacker for Leesville. By the way, he's a 1AA prospect that Southeastern might need to look at a little bit, Jace.
Okay, Coach Self, are you listening out there?
Yeah, there you go. 6 foot, 210, is a tackling machine, can run, obviously, knows the game. And Jamion Henderson's another linebacker. And Davion Grubb, they've got players. They just don't have a lot of them. You mentioned Gallishaw, who's all-world. He's about 5'8", 175. He's just a phenomenal player. But, look, Westgate, when Doucette's at quarterback, Landry's at receiver. When Landry's at quarterback, Doucette's at receiver. By the way, They got Lewis at tight end at 6'5", 230 that runs a 4.6.
He's one of the most underrated players that nobody really talks about as much as he should, considering how much of an X factor he is.
And by the way, they have 8 starters back on defense, Westgate, and 7 will sign college scholarships the next 2 years. One led by Zion Madison, whose brother, I think, is at Southeastern.
Yes, yep.
And Bradley Lewis, a big DN. And I'm just mentioning some of them because we don't have 3 days to do the show.
Well, if they advance, we can talk more about some guys coming up next week. If they do advance against Leesville, but you have Westgate advancing. So the next game is a rematch from earlier this season between North DeSoto and Northwood Shreveport. Actually, the first time, considering both quarterbacks are really good, Sam Odom had 256 yards passing, and the offense had 445 yards against Rain in the 34-16 win in the first round. We talk about Mason Welsh and Northwood Shreveport, their quarterback. But the first time both these two teams played earlier this year, it was 13-7. Northwood won the football game, and Northwood won the first game against Pearl River 46-6. So that sets up a rematch when Northwood won earlier this year in a defensive slugfest, 13-7.
Well, take out one's a 20 and one's a 4. Just throw that out the window. 2 Shreveport teams going at it. You know, one's in Shreveport, Northwood. North DeSoto's right outside of Shreveport. Kelvin Kenny needs to have a big game. But you know what, Jace? It's the battle of the trenches that wins this game. I think North DeSoto's going to probably want a revenge factor. You hate to play somebody twice in a year from the same town. But North DeSoto, led by Dennis Dunn, I thought this was his best team and the program's best team in many years, maybe ever. And I really believe DeAndre Thomas, a big lineman for them, Jackson Gibson, and Richard Clark are just going to be the difference. Now, Northwood's got a big D-line too and a big O-line. And then Mason Welch is a heck of a quarterback for Northwood, but he's a junior.
Right.
So he'll be back. And I just think North DeSoto is a little senior-laden. They're probably going to play a little bit better this time. I'm taking North DeSoto.
Okay, so that's actually the first time I disagree with you. I'm going to go with Northwood. I like the Falcons. So, okay, we disagree there. But, yeah, I can see that going. The first game was 13-7. I can see both these teams coming out and winning that game. Let's look at the bottom side of the bracket. Number 3, Warren Easton. We know that they've always been the team that's always knocked on Carr's door and just for whatever reason cannot beat Carr and get over that hump. They're trying to get there and get in that position to play Carr again. They started off with a 59-6 victory over A.J. Elner in the first round. Their next matchup, their next contest is Opelousas, as they defeated South Lafourche in a high-scoring affair, 57-42. This was Opelousas' first playoff win in 3 years. And they're trying to go to the quarterfinals for the first time in 8 years, but easier said than done when you have to play against Warren Easton.
You know, Warren Easton, everybody thinks of an offensive team, right? They always have great quarterbacks. Tyron Johnson came out as a receiver with the Chargers.
Great running backs over the years.
But this is a defensive Warren Easton team. This is a win on your defensive play. Warren Easton gets turnovers that lead to points. You know, it's kind of weird saying that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because Warren Easton's always 50 points a game.
It thrived on the offense.
Not this year. And Opelousas is always talented, but this is a team that came together. I was shocked they beat South Lafourche because they're a senior-laden team, but kudos to Opelousas. Opelousas has serious size and speed, and Jace, Opelousas looks as good as anybody in this bracket talent-wise, and they could go on a tear. I remember when Devery Henderson played for Opelousas. They didn't advance this far. You know, they had players like Benny Gilbo that went to Notre Dame and Robert Hammond that went to Florida State, and you know, you had a lot of great players. Mike Hayes went to LSU, but this team's got a lot of those guys. They're very talented. With that being said, I'm going Warren Easton because of the playoff experience and that defense. I think Warren Easton can shut down anybody right now.
Now, if you love your normal defensive battle, offensive battle between a great offense and a great defense, well, you're going to have it in the second round because Bell Chase, as 11 seed, defeated Struma, blanked them out 42-0. They've actually won a playoff game, I believe, like every single year, like the last 4 or 5 years.
Coach Myers does a great job.
Yeah, under Coach Myers has been unbelievable. And they're going to have to – their defense is going to get a pretty good test next week or this week, I would have to say, because they have to play number 6 Huntington, Cameron Evans at quarterback, Zion Claville at receiver, Kendra Rucker, the big tight end / receiver they have. They scored 68 points against Tioga in the first round. So you love the classic great offense versus great defense. You're going to have it with Huntington and Belle Chase.
Well, Belle Chase is always a tough team, and they're not flashy. Outside of the late Chris Henry and a couple other guys that came out, they haven't really produced a lot of big-time D1 guys, but they're going to fight you, man. They're like Rocky Balboa, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to earn a win if you beat them. But Huntington's loaded with talent. And the key to their team, Jace, is there are 2 running backs that are senior, Gabriel Sparks
right,
and DeMaji Riley. They're both 190. They're both thick guys that can run. They got all that skill talent, all that stuff outside at wide receiver and DB, and they're big. Huntington has a chance to make their deepest run in maybe the history of the school.
Yeah, they definitely have, and Coach Dennis is doing a great job with that
program. I got to pick a winner, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to go with Huntington to further their advancement, and it's probably the deepest they've been in 25 years.
Okay, guess what? I'm going to disagree with you there. I think defense, but I tell you, I can see Belle Chase coming out with a win, and but the key thing is I have to look at Belle Chase is going to have to make the biggest travel. They have to travel 6 hours north up to Huntington.
That's why I'm picking Huntington.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, I'll have fun with you. I'll pick Belle Chase and see defense wins it out. I'll always in these type of games, defense favors over offense.
But by the way, Belle Chase has a junior linebacker. He's one of the top 2 in the state next year. Right.
That's why I'm going to go with defense, but and just enough of their offense to squeak by Huntington. But it should be a good one.
Yeah.
Bottom side of the bracket, number 7 Cecilia plays number 10 Lakeshore. We've seen Lakeshore over the last couple of years make runs in the Superdome and deep playoff runs. Well, let's see if they do another one or make another deep playoff run, because they'll have to play number 7, an experienced Cecilia team. Alex Swallows, their quarterback. They defeated Beauchene 42-3. Lakeshore put 62 points up on the board against Franklinton to advance to the next round. So this is a matchup between Cecilia and Lakeshore.
Lakeshore maximizes their talent as good as anybody in the state. I don't see many programs like them that advance. They're always in the state championship game or the semis, Jace. And they're not loaded with big guys. I mean, I interviewed Ryan Bernard this summer, who's a great lineman for them, and also Josh Ray, a running back. Yep. Those guys are committed and well coached, and they play. If there's 80 kids, they play as 80 kids as a unit. With that being said, Cecilia's the same way. They just have more talent. Cecilia's going to be the most talented team that Lakeshore's played all year. That says a lot. They play North Shore. They play, Pearl River. They play a lot of teams locally that are good, but Cecilia has got some players now.
Yeah.
And they are busting at the seams to get the word out that, hey, we're a real deal. We're a good team.
Right.
And let me name some of their guys. You did mention their quarterback, Alex, who's a very good player. But they've got Kennedy Livings at running back, who's a senior, a great player. Cade Poirier, receiver, free safety. Gavin Knott, who's been starting for 4 years on the O-line at 290. He's a bad dude. And then you got other players. I mean, they've got a big senior group. Cecilia looks like a program that can play for a state title game.
Yeah, I think this is the year where they knock down the door. They've been around this point of the year. They haven't gotten past this point a lot often. But I like Cecilia here with their veteran team, their seniors, getting past Lakeshore.
And who do you think I'll pick?
You want to pick Lakeshore?
Cecilia.
Oh, Cecilia? Oh, you agree with me? Yeah.
It'll be a good game.
Yeah.
It'll be a good game. It's just I think this is a whole different animal of opponent for Lakeshore. This is a team that Lakeshore would want to meet maybe, in semifinals, not the second round.
And then the last matchup, a lot of people have their eyes on this one, Karen Crow and Neville. This is a rematch of last year's semifinal game where Karen Crow, I can't believe I'm saying this right now, Karen Crow dominated Neville. Not often you get to hear that Neville gets dominated. Now, that was last year. This is a whole new different team. 49-7. All year long, Neville has seen that score all year long, 49-7. Neville, they're coming off a shutout victory over Minden, 42-0. Karen Crow went on the road and put 71 points up on Bel Air. Good season for Bel Air, but they fall short. 71-20. And now Carencro, the game will be at Carencro this time against Neville. But Neville has that score stuck in their heads from all year in the offseason. They want to take that out on the team that beat them 49-7 last year.
This is the way I look at it, Jace. First of all, take my hat off to Tony Corville, Carencro. They won a state championship last year. He loses a starting quarterback to an injury this year, and they win their game last week, 71 points.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the page, Neville's best team in 7 years. And if you go back to the Neville team 7 years back, it was a 5-year run to the Superdome.
Yep.
This is a Superdome team, and they're senior laden. They're not just Will Campbell.
Right.
They're Britt Batterford, the quarterback.
Right. A.J. Allen.
A.J. Allen, who's phenomenal running back.
And Sledge. Yep.
Oh, Sledge. Griffin McGee, you don't hear his name
Right.
much. Kane Day on the O-line. Lorenzo DeBose, who's an SEC DB.
Yep. He was on the cover this year.
Jalen Blackston, who stepped it up as a safety. Isaiah Brown. Kendall January, a DN. Hinton Roberts, a stud linebacker. They are battle-tested. They played with the Rustons, the West Monroes. Carencro is young, and we're going to be talking about Carencro next year.
Yeah, and they've actually lost some players to injury. I believe
That's right.
14 players
That's right.
that got hurt over the course of the year.
And their strength right now is their offense, where they're a battering ram, is between Ryan Perry, their fullback, and their O-line. Their O-line and their fullback can still make holes for running backs.
Yep.
And they still got stud running backs, but Neville's got a stud defense, and they got Will Campbell, Kane Day on the O-line, and a junior O-lineman that's 6'7", 320.
Yeah.
Who came over from Bastrop. I mean, Neville, I think Britt Batterford's coming out party to be able to run the ball and throw it.
Right.
And he's one of the best, more athletic quarterbacks from North Louisiana you don't hear about as much. 6'2", 190, can run 4.55. And people always say, oh, Will Campbell. Well, he is legit.
Oh, yeah.
He's a franchise guy for LSU.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm who I'm taking on this.
Neville. And that's your state champion pick.
That's my state
so
champion
you have to ride
pick.
with them.
You didn't forget.
I didn't forget, and because I've been in the car, so it should be a really good matchup, and that's one that everybody wants to watch, obviously in the dome. But we'll see. We'll get that, or will somebody else like a Westgate or somebody else rise to the occasion.
There are 3 or 4 teams like North DeSoto, even Northwood, who they're playing.
Right.
Cecilia. I mean, there are good teams in this bracket that could get there.
We'll find out. We have one more public bracket to go through, and that is the big bad boys of Class 5A. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. We'll take a quick commercial break.
Come and visit the majestic mansion in the marsh, Grove Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge. Grove Savon is the true sportsman's paradise. Grove Savon Lodge has everything for you from fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours. Located south of Lake Charles. Call 337-598-2357 or visit www.grovesavon.com for more information and schedule your trip to the majestic mansion in the marsh, Grove Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise today.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen here, and we have one more public bracket to go through. After this, we'll go through the private brackets. They'll be quicker, not as much games to really go through.
Right.
But 5A, boy, that's like the wild, wild West, Lee.
Look,
5A.
If I'm a 5A coach in the playoffs, I'm probably going to go in my office for like one day of 24 hours, just shut the door and play some music, elevator music. And just nobody talk to me, because this is stressful. I mean, every team in this can beat anybody. And even though you say, oh, this team's going to beat that team and that team's going to beat this team, 5A on the public side is it is the biggest hill. 4A, 3A was really tough that we went over, but 5A, there's always a surprise. We can sit here and say these are going to be the 2 teams, but there's always going to be that team that you say, oh, yeah, we thought they'd make it, but we didn't pick them.
Let's go over that pesky 5A bracket. Now, this is a team that we agreed on to win the state championship, so we agreed with each other here, 5A. and that is Zachary, the number 1 seed, trying to make another run to the state championship again at another title. I believe that will be their 4th, I believe, in the last couple of years. With their 3rd different quarterback to win one would be Holstein. They went by the first round against Slidell, 36-0. Eli Holstein looks like a veteran quarterback out there, completing to 5 different receivers, had 276 yards passing against Slidell. East Ascension, they got the win against Southside. This was actually a really close game, like into the 4th quarter, like halfway through the 4th quarter. Then Southside turned the football over a couple of times, allowed East Ascension to run away with it. Now this game will be at East Ascension because of playing on the road at Southside. Zachary's going to get a tough draw considering how talented this East Ascension team is.
I'm going to tell you something. Do you know one of the hardest places to play in Baton Rouge at home? It's East Ascension. Their student section is about 500 strong, and the decimal is like a small LSU decimal in their stadium. It's hard to beat East Ascension at their place, and Zachary's not very thrilled about it. They got to go over there. They're not thrilled about having to play them again. All right, that's the other thing. Zachary, they're the air raid of high school football in Baton Rouge, Holstein, but they got a great it's one of the best receiving corps in the state, Jace. Cameron Signal, Jordan Williams has come on this year. Connor Wisham, who plays a lot of running back and receiver. Charles Robertson is another big-time D1 receiver this year. They had Hilton last year who signed with LSU, and it didn't even faze them that they lost him. Mm-hmm. So can East Ascension slow down the passing game of Zachary? I don't think so, but can Troy Dunn, the quarterback of EA, have a good game?
Yeah.
And Troy has evolved into a good quarterback. His junior year, he was more of a receiver trying to learn quarterback, but he's actually 6'2", 3, about 190, and he's actually a great player that's starting to throw the ball and set his feet. Mm-hmm. That's scary for Zachary because EA's O-line is 6'5", 300 across, and their D-line's pretty big too. So, they can play with Zachary. So I'm taking Zachary.
I'm taking Zachary,
but
obviously.
It's going to be a close game, I believe.
And it's at East Ascension, which is not an easy place to play. With their fans, you know how crazy their student section can be.
They'll probably have 3,500, 4,000 fans just from East Ascension's side.
Next playoff matchup, even though North Shore lost the war, they gave one heck of a battle. To go and play at an intimidating place, probably the most intimidating place to play is West Monroe, and to go over there and take West Monroe to 2 overtimes and get the best out of them. Kudos to Coach Sanders and North Shore, but West Monroe found a way to win 37-30. They're going to get a tough task from Chalmette, having their best season in quite a while. And Chalmette, they had their hands pretty dirty with Houghton because it was a close one. Actually, Chalmette had to hold, and they held Houghton to a 2-point conversion attempt, which would have been the game winner, and Chalmette's defense held to get the 21-20 victory and avoid the upset. Now, this was actually a rematch of a game last year in the playoffs, West Monroe and Chalmette, and Chalmette gave West Monroe quite a run at West Monroe. This time it's going to be at Chalmette. West Monroe, they're a really good football team, obviously, maybe not the most dominant as it's been over the last couple of seasons, last 20, 30 years, but Chalmette, as the 8th seed, plays number 9 West Monroe.
What's kept West Monroe, Jace, out of the dome the last 2 years is injuries. They've just had a lot of injuries. They don't lack talent. Last year they had a ton of injuries. It kind of set them back. This year they had some injuries to start off the year. I think they're getting healthy, which is not good for Chalmette. And Rashawn Pleasant's had a phenomenal year at running back. This guy is big time. He's a big-time national running back. I think he's committed to Louisiana Tech.
Yep.
Richard Killian has become a good D tackle, 6'4", about 280. Their linebackers, Tag Banks, who's Tommy Banks' son. He's had a good year. They are very good on defense again. I would not want to play West Monroe. Now, Chalmette can hang with them because they're good on the O&D line. If you're going to be with West Monroe, you better have a good offense and defensive line. And Chalmette has Raymond Thompson, who plays DN.
And he was the MVP. Player. He was the MVP of that game, too.
Jamon Bienemy. I don't know if he's kin to Eric Bienemy, but Jamon, he's 320 pounds, a nose guard, 6 foot. You got Bryant Breska, who's 6'3", 320, D tackle. and Juan Mullen, a DN, who I saw this year, a new guy. So they have the big guys to slow this game down, is my point. Because Western Road, what are they going to do? Run right at you.
Right.
And Chalmette has a front seven. So this might be one of them 10-3 games, 17-10 games, and Chalmette's got to muster up some points. But I'm taking West Monroe.
Yeah, I am too.
In a close game.
I am too. It should be a close game, but everything's coming together for Chalmette, and also another coach that became the winningest coach for his program, Jason Tucker. He's the winningest coach now in Chalmette.
He's been there a long time.
Yeah, congratulations, Coach Tucker, for a great. He's still obviously going to be the coach there, but a great tenure so far, definitely for Chalmette. Now let's go to the next game. Ruston, the number 5 seed, they took care of business against number 28 Covington, 45-10, and a really close one for Benton, 38-31, and it was actually the help of 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns, special teams making the difference for Benton to survive 38-31 over a Haynesville team that's definitely better than what their seed may indicate, only 21. Now it sets up number 5 Ruston against number 12 Benton. Benton's always had really great regular seasons, but if they can get this victory over Ruston, that could be one of their best playoff victories really to date right now. And Ruston, even though they lost some players from last year, they are as strong as ever, and they're looking to make a state championship Superdome push.
This would be a great leap for man for them to beat Ruston. And look, Ruston has played as good as anybody in North Louisiana, Jace. That includes Neville, who they played this year. Ruston shocked me this year because they were young, and they really gained a lot of traction from week 1 to week 4, and they're better than they were last year with probably more talent. And they're, the strength of Ruston's team is their offensive line. That's where they have their seniors. All 4 of these guys are 290 to 300 pounds, and they're very athletic. They're led by Micah Shear, Bernard Johnson, and Will Reagan. They're all big-time line. They're huge guys that can move. And Dennis Williams on the D-line is a 260 guy that can move around. And I like D'Angelo Harper, their outside linebacker. On the flip side, Benton has a very good D-line. I mean, they've got some great players on D-line that can play. Jackson Ashley, E.J. Washington, Davis Sellers, Braylon Brown, and Charlie Nance on the O-line. So, in the trenches, but how long can they hold up? Because Ruston is like a battering ram. Will you be there in the fourth quarter? Can you hang with these guys? Can you score on some turnovers? Will you onside a kick? They got to get creative. Benton's got a good team, but Ruston's another level club they're playing.
And so you're going to go with Ruston here?
I'm going with Ruston. Yep.
Okay, I agree with you. I have Ruston advancing to the next round. This next game could be a defensive coordinator's worst nightmare for both teams. Woodlawn, they coming off a 42-14 victory over Natchitoches Central. Ricky Collins, another talented quarterback, coming up. He had 3 touchdown passes in that game against Natchitoches Central. And, John Eugene has come on a little bit the last couple of weeks, and he threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for another touchdown. They had 343 yards of total offense. So they scored 48 points against West Jefferson. Woodlawn scored 42 points against Natchitoches Central. Now both Woodlawn and Destrehan play each other in the next round.
Destrehan's the best-looking team I've seen in the state getting off the bus. Jai Eugene doesn't have to do a lot, Jace. That's the thing.
Right.
He can throw a 2-yard pass. They got about 5'6" receivers.
Yep.
Destrehan's O&D line looks like an NFL O&D line, and Woodlawn's O-line looks that way in their D-line. The good thing about this game, whatever happens, Woodlawn's best 3 players are juniors. Yeah. Ricky Collins, Tremont Douglas, and also they've got a great kid named Jordan Matthews. Rashawn Matthews is his dad.
Yeah,
played LSU and Southern.
Yep.
I'm going with Destrehan. I think Woodlawn's still a little young. Next year's Woodlawn's year to maybe get to the game.
Okay.
Wouldn't shock me if Woodlawn did win.
Yeah.
But Destrehan, to me, is the most talented team that you'll see that's not a 1 or 2.
Guess what, Lee? I'm going to go with Woodlawn.
There you go. I mean, it could go either way.
It could go either way.
This is going to be a battle that is going to come down to turnovers, interceptions, fumbles. And if it was a dry field last year, Woodlawn beats East St. John.
Right.
Because they started fumbling.
And East St. John made that deep playoff run. And
after that win.
Yeah. And so it could either one of those 2 teams. I knew last year whoever won that game was going to make a deep playoff run. It happened to be East St. John that particular game.
But I'm trying to paint a picture. If you're a football fan And your eyes work real well on looking at talent. Destrehan is mind-boggling how much talent they have.
Yes.
It is incredible, especially when you quarterback, all he has to do is hand off and throw screen passes.
You're talking about a lot of Saturday talent. There's going to be a lot of Saturday talent on both those teams.
Big time. I mean, you might have as many as 40 kids combined. That's a lot.
Yeah. So if you're a college scout out there, I would recommend going to that game.
Just for talent.
Just for talent alone. Now let's look at the bomb side of the bracket of Class 5A. Ponchatoula, it was a dominant effort in all three phases, 45-6 over a good Lafayette 30 seed, and Ponchatoula blew them out, 45-6. And John Ehret defeated East Jefferson 43-26. Good season for East Jeff, but they came up short against John Ehret. Now, John Ehret, they have a lot of talent like they usually do, but they have a tough task against Hank Tierney and the Ponchatoula Green Wave.
You know, Jace, this is my thoughts on this game. You got a senior-laden team in Ponchatoula. You got a young Ehret team that's come on. Like, Ehret wasn't very good early in the year, and it's like a lot of high school teams. They get better as the season goes on. But John Ehret's D-line, watching them this year, they can hang with Ponchatoula now. Now, a lot of people go, Lee, it's a mismatch. I'm telling you, the D-line for John Ehret, led by Kevontae Russell, Karoof Wilson, and Cameron Holden, all three good enough to play at Southeastern, by the way. Mm-hmm. They're all 240, 250, and can run 4.8. They're not 6'2", 6'3", but they're in that 6', 6'1" range, and they can control the game. And John Ehret's fast on offense, but you know who's got to have a big game in this game? Everybody talks about Matthews and all these other recruits.
Right.
It's Braden Johnson.
He's like the heartbeat of that offense.
He's Jacob Hester for Ponchatoula.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's the closest thing I've seen to Jacob Hester in Louisiana. He's 6 foot 220, and he's not a fullback.
No.
And he can run.
Oh, he can.
And if he has a big game, they win. If he doesn't have a big game, Ehret pulls the upset.
Okay.
That's my thought. I'm picking Ponchatoula.
So you think Braden's going to have a big game then?
I think he's going to have a big game, but he's going to have to earn it against this John Ehret defense.
A name to throw out, too, just based off last week and how well he performed, was Xavion Thomas. How about this game? He had 2 touchdown catches, a punt return for a touchdown, and he completed a pass. He threw a pass and completed one.
For John Ehret.
Yeah, for John Ehret.
But you know what's really crazy about Xavion Thomas? He's only played football this is his second year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He ran a true legit 4.29 40. Now, I've only heard of 2 4.29 40s in 20 years. One was Trenton Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say it was a 4.19.
Oh, yeah. Coach Masterson still says that.
And then Bo Jackson claims he ran a 4.0, which would be the fastest in the history of football. But there's not many 4.29 40-yard dashes out there.
And we have a couple more games left to talk about in Class 5A. Ouachita wins big against Sulphur, 40-7 the first round. And then probably one of the biggest upsets there is, and of pretty much any bracket really, was Denham Springs, the performance they had.
And they beat
They beat your alma mater. I'm sorry about that, Lee. What you can do, you know. 42-14. One of the biggest upsets there is, 27 against a 6. Not a lot of people really saw that one coming, but congratulations to Denham Springs and their coach Brett Beard. He has a tendency to do that sometimes, really coach these guys and make a run and really give all they can handle for like a lower seed. He did that a lot at Live Oak. And now, can they do it again? They got a Ouachita Pairs team that really broke through some doors this year, being West Monroe and Ruston and a lot of these great teams. So they played the best of the best in North Louisiana, but it's going to be a tough challenge for Brett Beard and Denham Springs to pull that off twice in a row.
It's all gravy from here on out, meaning if they don't win another one, it's another hill he's climbed at Denham, right?
Yeah.
And Denham's young.
Yeah.
Denham had their starting quarterback hurt a lot of this year. They had to play a young quarterback to win the game, I believe. But you know what, Jace? Ouachita High School, very talented. Their defense is the real deal. And I think that's what's going to be the winner here. Ouachita, the strength of Denham's their offense. Ouachita is going to be able to shut them down, I believe, even though Denham's got some good running backs, okay, good young running backs.
That proved to be the difference, really.
Yeah, but Philip Bradford is a man-child for Ouachita at 6'4", 260, runs a 4.6. All right, he's scary good. I think LSU needs to offer him today. And then Jalen Kincaid's one of the best corners in Monroe in the state. for Ouachita. You throw in Cormarion Glass at linebacker. He's a big-time All-State guy. You look at Marcel Henderson at DB. He's an All-State guy. And you look at Dylan Cooper, who's possibly All-State D tackle. So, if you're going to run on these guys, and if Denham was to win this game, we might be talking about Denham a little bit longer than that too, because Ouachita's one of the big boys from North Louisiana, and Denham's got a challenge, but I'm glad Denham's here.
Yep.
You beat my alma mater, but I'm glad you're here. Denham's a young team, and all their running backs are going to be back even next year. I think Denham is set to be a deep run next year, and they got a chance to do it this year.
Yeah, especially when they get their quarterback back, who's been hurt, as talented quarterback as he is. And, let's go to the last two games. The two-time defending state champs, Class 5A, Acadiana, the Wrecking Rams, continue, to wreck opponents. And they defeated Dutchtown 43-14 in the first round. If you love running backs, that was your game for you, because Dutchtown's Dylan Sampson. Amari Wiggins had 195 yards rushing in that game in that Veer offense that Acadiana runs. They won big to go to the next round, and they'll have to play Samall 27-13. They're coming off a win against HL Bourgeois as they won by 2 scores. They have a really good quarterback, Cole Poirier. They got a really good defensive line. It's really good. Probably one of Coach Oliver's most balanced teams that he's had since he's been at Samall. But can they pull the upset? Can they finally stop the Acadiana streak after they won the last 2 state championships?
This is going to be a great game. I've always thought Santa Maria was one of the better teams in the state, Jace, and I think they still are. This is Cole Poirier's chance to stamp how good he can be. This is his chance to take charge. Cole Poirier is a dual quarterback, 6'3", 190, great baseball guy, got a really good arm. He's also the punter on the team and kicker. But their offensive line, Santa Maria's, Jace, can match up with Acadiana's big-time D-line. I mean, Santa Maria's got a really big, athletic O-line, and they've got skill guys around Cole. The defense for Santa Maria, you got to stop Acadiana. That's the key. They do have Dylan Carpenter on defense, Jackson Melanson. They've got Brody. They've got a lot of great guys on this defense. Stephen Landry, Carter Hull, Lee Amade. So they do have the talent to beat, believe it or not, Acadiana, who's not as good as they were last year. But Acadiana picks steam up in the playoffs. Their tradition is we don't lose. And they don't lose a lot of playoff games. This is going to be a class. This is going to be a game of the century for Santa Maria. It's a chance to put their name on the map. It's a chance for Coach Oliver to take this program to the next level. I hate to call a winner here. I really do.
Okay.
I'm going to go with an upset.
Really? Okay.
I'm going Santa Maria because history has always been on Acadiana's side. And I think more of the Santa Maria team than probably an average person would, not knowing how good they are. But I think the O&D line for Santa Maria can hang with Acadiana. Okay. And Acadiana's offense hasn't been as good as it's been in the past.
It hasn't been as consistent. I mean, there's been some strides. It just haven't been
But
really
the key
week in,
is
week
Santa
out.
Maria's O-line has to win the battle with Acadiana's D-line. That's the game. Cole Poirier, and I'm counting on Cole to have the game of a lifetime, which he's capable of. And this is his chance to say, hey, I'll belong D1.
Well, you know that Cole's going to try to avoid throwing the Terrence Welsh's way, too. You know?
I don't know if he's playing. I think he got hurt week 4 or 5. So I don't know I think Welch might be out. That's another reason
that could be another reason. Yeah. We'll keep an eye on that injury as well. But, until they prove me wrong, I'm going to go with the Wrecking Rams and move on. But as the safe pick here. And then the last playoff game, another upset that not a lot of people really saw coming with number 18, Parkway defeating Alexandria. This is the first team that made the state championship last year that is out of the playoffs. So Alexandria is out after losing 41-27. Ron Richmond had himself a career night. He ran for 314 yards and 5 touchdowns in the win against Alexandria. But can they do it again? I mean, they beat Alexandria team as talented as they can be, and they're going to have to play a Captain Shreve team that is one of the most explosive teams out there. We talk about Kendrick Law, Braylon Finney, that high-flying passing offense, explosive offense of Captain Shreve. They defeated Live Oak 37-7 last week.
This is the most talented team. We always use years. How about these years? It's the most talented team in 40-something years for Captain Shreve, Jace. I'm not talking about records. I'm talking about talent. Now, back in the old days, they had guys like Bo Harrison with LSU, Roland Harper, played for the Chicago Bears. A lot of great players that come out of Captain Shreve. And then in the 90s, it wasn't as good, the early 2000s. The last 5 years, Captain Shreve has slowly been inking toward the top echelon of 5A ball. They are as good as anybody in 5A. I want to put that out there. They're very deserving too. They'll win this game, I believe. The D-line for Captain Shreve looks like the old West Monroe D-lines, and that's why. And their O-line is huge. They got great skill guys. Braylon Finney is phenomenal. They've got some other great skill guys. They got one of the top athletes in the country also on offense.
Sure.
Pershing Moreau is a defensive end that's going to play college ball. Kelby Givens is a guy that's going to play college ball, D-lineman. Chris Fearson, Brody Page, Zion Lilly, all D-linemen and linebackers. Cavion Powell's another D1 corner. Now, you talking about Ron Ratavius Richmond.
Yep.
He's a phenomenal senior running back for Parkway. Do you know that Parkway, 80% of their players, their top players, are juniors and sophomores?
Wow, that makes this run even more special that they defeated an
and they had a
team.
tough run this year. They had some tough losses early on. I'm proud of Parkway because Parkway didn't even look like they were going to win a game or make. And here they are in the second round of the playoffs, and I think Captain Shreve will win this. Parkway will be back next year and have a chance to go deeper.
So that is Class 5A. We've finished the public brackets. Now when we come back from commercial break, we'll talk about the private playoff brackets. A lot of teams that didn't really play last week, they get the chance to show their stuff this week in the playoffs. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. We'll be right back.
Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. And for this segment, we're going to talk about the first private side of the brackets. This is Division 4, which can be confusing. So public goes up, private goes backwards. So Division 4 is actually 1A private. You got that, Lee?
I got it. I'm used to saying Class 1A, 2A, 3A.
Right.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep, right. So actually the state championship this year, all the public games will actually be occurring in the Superdome like normal. And then as far as the private games, 2 of the games will be held at the Raging Cajuns field, UL's football stadium. And then the other 2 will be held at Tulane. So it's going to be a little different.
A little different.
Yep. For this one, Division 4, the state championship will occur at the University of Louisiana Lafayette December 11th on Cajun Field. So let's talk about the first side of the bracket in Division 4, Ouachita Christian. Really impressive victory over Cedar Creek, 35-7. I mean, 16 doesn't really indicate how good of a season, how good of a team Cedar Creek is. Ouachita Christian, they're trying to get their revenge tour after losing the state championship last year. Now they play Ascension Catholic. Ascension Catholic had all that they can handle against Central Catholic. It was a high-scoring affair. Central Catholic has a really good running back that they like, and he had himself a really good football game. Ascension Catholic, even though they're missing some players, they got some efforts from a lot of other players that stepped up with those guys being absent. Now, Ascension Catholic, they're going to have to up their game a little bit because they have Ouachita Christian. The game will be at Ouachita Christian.
You know, a lot of people talk about Ouachita Christian's skill talent, and it's really good. But the reason they're number one is because they're O&D line, Jace. This is one of the bigger O&D lines they've had in a while. They're all seniors. James David Miller, Casey Cobb, Avery Pilgrim, and Andy Weatherford. They're all big-time leaders and seniors, and there's some other guys. But they're in this position not because their quarterback's the best player in the state or not because they're defensive backs, which they have good players. But when you have great players in 1A on D&O line, you're probably going to be one of the top teams. I think it's a team where if Ascension Catholic had all their players, I think it'd be a close game. I think Ouachita Christian moves on, wins this one. Ascension Catholic will be back in this next year because they're very young. You know, I know Tap's not playing right now for them, who's a senior, but other than that, they have a lot of young guys. And that's what people don't understand about Ascension Catholic. They're not a senior team. So Ouachita Christian, I'll have them moving on.
So do I, and I actually have Ouachita Christian going to win the state championship, so I'll obviously have to pick them moving on to the next round, to the semis. And let's see if it'll set up a state championship-like game in the semis if Calvary Baptist moves on to defending Division IV state champs, which is actually Lee's pick. And they're going to get a tough task from number 5 Sacred Heart. Now, Sacred Heart squeaked by number 12 St. Edmund. Is another team that doesn't really indicate their seeding. But Sacred Heart having a really good season this year. They move on to the next round, but they have a really tough task. And if not the best offense, one of the top 3 or 4 offenses there is in the entire state. They put up 70 points up on the board against a very talented Hamilton Christian football team. So Calvary and Sacred Heart, obviously you're going to go with Calvary since you picked them to win it all, but what kind of a challenge do you think Sacred Heart will present them?
I think Sacred Heart getting here was an accomplishment, and they played within their talent, you know, and they got a good program. Their tight end was on the cover of our magazine.
Yeah, Isaac Lejeune. Yep.
But, you know, I think highly of that kid and their program, but you're playing a mismatch here. And Calvary Baptist, I don't even know how they're 4. I mean, I really don't.
I really don't either.
But Calvary Baptist is the most athletic team, including Southern Lab, in this bracket. Calvary Baptist has the best player back in this bracket, Landry Liddy, the quarterback. They also have the best O&D line in the bracket, led by Zeke Toops, Chris Thomas, Miles Williams, Denham Smith, and Malone, Chauncey Malone, the D&O line. These guys are different. They're athletic, they're big, and they're athletic. Ouachita Christian would probably be behind them for linemen, and then Southern Lab. But Calvary Baptist, I'm still picking them to win it all.
Yep.
Sacred Heart, again, congratulations to get to the second round, which is not easy, and having a good year. It's a small program that has really maximized their talent.
Yeah, it was a great season for the Trojans for sure. And Calvary Baptist, we'll see if they have a fine chance against, what they say, with the Trojans, fighting chance against Calvary. And if Calvary and Ouachita Christian move on, you know what that means, Lee. That's going to set up a really good one. That means
you're going to win or I'm going to lose.
Yeah, right. It's going to set up a really good one. Right. I really think whoever wins that semifinal game is going to win it all.
Yeah, I just think that in you know, Calvary's the more athletic team over Ouachita Christian. I'm not saying Ouachita Christian's not athletic.
Right.
Calvary Baptist is just super athletic, and they're big, and they're not a normal looking 1A team. Even Ouachita Christian is a normal looking state champion looking team. It's just you just got a team that's on another level. And how are they 4? I don't know how they're 4.
Yeah, and they only had one loss this year, which was to Rummel,
and they won it last year.
Right. And they're playing obviously for their fallen teammate too, so extra motivation for Calvary.
And you know, Coach Gian loves that he's 4. He loves the underdog role. I mean, any coach does.
Yep. And any play I've seen him for, that still blows my mind too. Now let's look at the bomb side of the bracket. How about an upset here, 14-3? But that's another team. I believe Lee even called it too, over Opelousas Catholic, and definitely not a team that's indicated of their seeding. Number 14 St. Frederick defeats number 3 Opelousas Catholic 14-8 to move on. And actually, Catholic Point Capee almost pulled off an upset in their own right against Vermilion Catholic. And actually, Catholic Point Capee hit on the last play, like a Hail Mary, and it was caught for a touchdown.
Come on.
Catholic Point Capee was down by 1, make it 37-36. Coach Bolera and Catholic Point Capee decide, hey, we're the underdogs, we're going for the win. 2-point conversion was no good. Vermilion Catholic held on by the skin of their teeth to win 37-36. Now they're going to have to play St. Frederick, who also has a chance, could upset them too.
I'm going to tell you something, man. I watched St. Fred's 2 weeks ago, and they're not a 14. They're a top 3 seed, and they're a senior team. And let me tell you something. Again, I'm just trying to paint a picture of those that are watching this show. Nothing against Vermilion Catholic, who's got a phenomenal program in Abbeville, Louisiana. This is one of the best St. Fred's teams I've seen in 30 years. And we're talking linemen, skill players, experienced seniors. These guys are only 14 because they played everybody else in Monroe that's ranked ahead of them. But James Marone is a heck of a linebacker, running back for them. Caleb Scurfield is a up-and-coming DN who's a senior. He's had a great senior season. Thomas Marcello was on our cover, a safety, linebacker for them. Connor Breen is one of the best fullbacks in North Louisiana, Jace, and a linebacker. And Tremaine Cleveland is a heck of a defensive end in high school. And Chris Bell is one of the best corners and receivers you don't know about D1 for St. Fred's. St. Fred's, their O-line, by the way, I'm not mentioning the young big guys they got that are athletic. This is going to be a challenge for Vermilion. Vermilion's not a big team. You got a St. Fred team that's built big, and they're skilled. Usually St. Fred's not skilled, but they got linemen.
One way or the other, right.
But now they got linemen and skill. This is a tough matchup for Vermilion Catholic. I've got number 14 seed.
Okay.
Continuing on.
Okay. I'm going to go against it. I like Vermilion Catholic. I think that was a wake-up call for them, too, against Catholic Point Capee. And they got a lot of skilled talent. And, and they impressed me watching them play last week. And they overcome some obstacles but found a way to win, which it doesn't really matter how pretty it is. The playoffs, you score more than the other team. That's what it takes. Win in advance. There's no tomorrow. Winner go home in the playoffs. Now, here is the last game, which is number 2 Southern Lab. We play number 10 Country Day. I did see Country Day earlier this season when they played Episcopal and almost beat Episcopal in that game early in the season. Really good job by their defense at Country Day, because St. Mary's has a really good quarterback in Parker, and they only allowed 1 touchdown against that offense of St. Mary's. 47-7 decisive win. They're going to have a tough task, a huge challenge coming up against Southern Lab, who defeated Hanson Memorial 56-0. If Southern Lab shows the consistency of their talent week in, week out, boy, it's going to be tough to beat the Southern Lab football team.
Well, this Country Day team is not as talented as when they had Justin Abiet at quarterback. They're not as big.
Right.
They're smaller. They're a good team now. They're well coached.
Probably their running back's the biggest guy on their team.
Scott Isaacs.
Scott Isaacs. Yeah.
6'4", 250, runs a 4.6. His dad played at USL.
Yep. Right.
By the way, that's the game. If you stop Scott Isaacs, who's a
he's kind of like a Derrick Henry type.
He's the Derrick Henry of the state.
Sure.
Southern Lab's got this big 280-pound D line that can stop him, and Southern Lab needs a big game out of their 4-year starting quarterback.
Angelo Izzard,
Angelo Izzard, who's a 90-mile-an-hour lefty pitcher in baseball, by the way. But Angelo, 4-year starter, 40 games as a starter, all right, for Southern Lab. Now, Herman Brister Jr. is a good receiver safety for them. He needs a big game. And Darren Morris, who I think is a phenomenal D1 receiver for them. I'm going Southern Lab because I think there's just a lot more talent.
Yeah, I agree.
And you stop Isaacs and a couple of these Country Day receivers, and it's ball game.
I think that's the key, is really stopping Isaacs.
And they also have a good linebacker, Michael Talbot.
Yeah, he was playing quarterback for them, too.
Big guy, like 6'1", 225. But Southern Lab has got a 70-pound difference in weight in the OD line. And Lab, I saw him play Dunham. When they're playing their ability, you're not going to it's going to be tough to beat them.
It really is.
I'll pick Calvary Baptist to win this division, but Lab's a team that's very intriguing.
Yeah, I actually have Southern Lab actually making it to the state championship.
There you go.
On that other side, because I know it's either going to be based on Division 4. I think it's either going to be Washita Christian or Calvary.
I got Calvary St. Frederick's.
Yep. So okay.
Yeah.
So we disagree on both sides. There we go.
Yeah, man.
There we go.
Okay.
Interesting, but it is an interesting Division 4 bracket. When we come back, when we talk about the private side, Class 2A. Oh, that's going to be a good one. Division 3. It's the same thing like in the cars. It's been Lafayette Christian. Can anybody slow down the LCA train? We'll find out. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
You need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, you've got to go to Medine's Collision Center, located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. 7983, family owned since the 1960s.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host for today, Jace LeJeune, and we're going to do this playoff week by week with the video and just kind of go over the road to the Dome or the road to Cajun Field or the road to Tulane Stadium. So we'll keep you covered each and every week.
And we can talk about more kids.
Yep. That's the beautiful part about it. We won't talk about
the same kids every week because you can't get all the kids out in one show.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. So, if your team moves on, we'll talk more and more about those guys. That's how it works. Yeah. So let's talk about Division 3, excuse me. And just looking at this bracket, not a lot of teams played. A lot of byes in that first round. LCA, as the 4-time defending state champs, gets a well-deserved bye, number 1. They'll play number 8, Ascension Episcopal, who had a statement win against Catholic New Iberia, 34-6.
Look, the coaching staff at Lafayette Christian, Jace, is another level. Trev Falk, that whole staff. I mean, I can't name all 12 guys or however many it is, but do you know Lafayette Christian lost Sage Ryan, who graduated, and several other players, and they're backing up what they've been, and they got a chance to win, 5 in a row? It's unheard of, state championships. And this year, their team, really their strength is DBs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the OD line. It's their defensive backs.
Right.
And they're led by Brylan Green, Devin Walton, Jordan Allen, and Darian Riggs.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets secondary-wise.
All 4 of those seniors are going to sign scholarships somewhere, but you can actually beat this team, but the confidence level of Lafayette Christians is another atmosphere. And they're playing a local team now that knows them, all right? Ascension Episcopal is a Lafayette Youngsville team, outskirts there, and they're talented. Ascension Episcopal probably feels a little slighted because everybody talks about not a lot about them, but they have a senior unit. They're led, and they got a good OD line. They're led by Maxie Bodwin.
Right.
Barrett Abear. Yep. Barrett Abear is a 4-year starter. Pearson Pebbles is a starting offensive center, and DN Alex Doga, and they got a lot of juniors. So I'm not picking an upset here, but I'm just saying it might be a closer game than what people think. But Lafayette Christian will move on from this game.
Yeah, that's who I have winning the state championship from the start, so I'm going to have to go with LCA. And, anytime that you can play right with Catholic with your starters and then you beat Acadiana, that tells me all you can do, with what they can do. But Ascension Episcopal, they had a statement win against Catholic New Iberia, which was 34-6. Now let's go to the game that I'm actually going to be on the call for. Episcopal and Newman, both teams had a well-deserved bye because they know both teams are going to have to prepare for a Goliath type of matchup between Newman, led by Arch Manning, against the Episcopal Knights. Trying to get past this point in the quarterfinals. They've went undefeated in district for the first time back-to-back years in program history. Great season by Coach Bourgeois. There are a lot of question marks at the beginning of the season, and his team answered them and then some this year. One of the best teams they've ever had in program history. Should be a good one on the call. I can't wait for on Friday to see Episcopal and against Newman and their offense led by Arch Manning and Will Randall and all those guys. Now, being, of course, a little bias here with Episcopal calling their games. I have Episcopal advancing, but let's go from a non-biased side yourself, Lee. What do you think about this game? Everybody's talking about Newman and Arch Manning, but Episcopal's having a great season. Who do you think comes out on top?
See, I know people at both schools. I have friends, Bo Barnalaw, I know his dad, Ben, and, Arch is the quarterback, obviously, at Newman. They have a great tight end. But the way I look at this, if you leave Arch out of it and all the stuff that's talked about, mainly him and Bo Barnalaw and a couple of other guys, Episcopal matches up very well with them, size-wise overall.
Right.
And I think the key to this game, I'm going to answer your question in this way. 2 guys have to show up on defense for Episcopal and play out of their mind like they have every week. And it's David Cresson and Braden George.
Yes.
Those 2 guys, and you do their games, they're hybrids that can play corner, safety, or linebacker. And in space, you have to make tackles, and that's what Newman does. They throw the ball in space. And against Arch,
You have to get rid of those 3-4 yard gains, and you got to make them like drop some balls by hitting them. So Episcopal, I think, has those guys on defense that they didn't have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Episcopal used to be an offensive team,
Sure,
and have an okay defense. This is a different Episcopal team because Carmouche is on offense, can run the ball. He can run on Newman.
Yep.
And those quarterbacks, those alternate quarterbacks, can
Cooper Bro, and then Lewis Ward.
They can do a good job in this game because Newman skill wise is about equal to Episcopal, and I think Episcopal has an edge on defense.
Yeah. And Thomas DeArmond can be an X factor.
And Thomas DeArmond is the X factor to score points in this game.
Right.
And he's not intimidated. He's a 4 or 5 guy. I think he's an D1 receiver, slot receiver. So with that being said, it's going to be a war. And this is going to come down to what kicker gets a chance to make a field goal or who gets to run the clock out in the last 3-4 minutes.
Right.
Is it going to be Arch Manning running the clock out in the last 3 minutes, or is it going to be Lewis Ward or
Cooper Bro?
Yeah. But I do think that David Cresson and the players there,
Braden
George, are phenomenal hitters.
You're not afraid to hit. I was about to say they're not afraid to hit.
Those two guys are very good in pass coverage, and their DBs as a whole are pretty good. So I really think because of that, the strength of Newman's their offense. Is that Episcopal can score on them, and I think Episcopal can slow them down. So I'm going to take the Knights.
Okay.
Not because you do their games, but I'm doing it because that's my honest opinion. Now, this could easily be Newman, and both schools are trying to get to a state championship game. Neither one have had a lot of luck. They've all made the semis. They've all made the quarterfinals. So,
that's true. That's a good point.
One of these
Somebody
teams,
has to break through.
Somebody's destined to get there.
Yep. And if they do, they're going to have to play LCA.
I know,
so another door.
They're beatable.
Yeah, definitely. So should be a good one. And another X factor to move on is Dryden Duggins. Because he's come on the last couple of weeks.
Number 5, that receiver. His junior year didn't even play hardly. And he's 6'2", about 200 pounds. And he has, in one play I saw, I think it was Port Allen, Jace.
He was the MVP of that Port Allen game.
He drugged 9 players for 10 yards for almost a touchdown. I swear, it was 10 yards. He drugged 9 kids.
Oh, I remember that. I remember calling that play.
And his hands are getting better, so he is going to get a chance to catch a lot of passes because Thomas DeArmond is going to be double-teamed by Newman, which is going to leave him open and Bro. So those two guys are going to have a chance to make a lot of plays.
And this part of the year, Carmouche and DeArmond they really carry the offense through the whole season, and sometimes they're at this point of the year where they're a little banged up because of it. A lot of tread on the tires, so you're going to have to rely on guys like Duggins to carry forward.
Duggins might get wide open on a lot of opportunities. And he's a big guy. So if you're Newman trying to tackle him, I mean, he's 200 pounds muscle.
He can move a little bit, too,
And DeArmond's pretty tough, too.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, it's going to be a battle. This will be a great game for you to call.
Oh, yeah, I am excited, Lee. I am very excited about that one.
You can come down to your Brent Musburger stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He's on the 5. He's on the 2. He's on the 1.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I got them ready.
But, Arch will have a good game. I think the Episcopal quarterbacks will have good games. I think it'll be back and forth, and then it's going to settle down. And like I said, Cresson and George need to step up and make big plays against Arch when they throw it.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out with that Titan matchup between both those two teams. Now let's look at the bottom side of the bracket. St. Charles Catholic, they have a bye. Even though Frank Monica is not physically there as a head coach, his imprint is on that program with his nephew leading the way, Wayne Stein. And then Dunham, wow, what a statement they made. 62-9 against Holy Savior Menard. Now, I saw Dunham play this year. They are very impressive. Coach Weiner told me this is the best defensive line he's ever coached at Dunham. And then they have the offensive skill guys with Jordan Dupree at receiver, Hayden Hand, the quarterback. Kalante Wilson's been their bell cow running back. It's a really good football team. Do you think there's a chance here with pulling an upset against St. Charles Catholic?
I do, but when you look at Dunham week 1 and then you look at their film week 5, they look like two different teams, Jace. Dunham started out as a junior sophomore team mainly that grew up. And I told a lot of people, I said, look, don't sleep on Dunham. I don't care what Dunham does the first 4 games. After game 4, they're going to be
thorn to beat. Okay, they're going to be tough, and they are, and they got a lot of young guys mixed in. And Kalante Wilson's finally healthy at running back. He missed his junior year, a lot of that, and he finally got back to normal. And he's the bell cow. I mean, he's 5'7", about 200 pounds, and he's capable of 200-yard rushing games every week. Here's the deal, though. St. Charles, this would have been Frank Monica's one of his top 5 teams. It's a big senior group. They're a little bigger than Dunham, even though Dunham's not small. St. Charles, it's going to be a high mountain to climb to beat them. I'm taking St. Charles Catholic, not because Dunham's not good.
Right.
It's St. Charles is
they're very stingy.
They're 240, 250 pounds, athletic OD lines. Their quarterback is an option dual threat guy that's going to give them trouble.
And the quarterback last year's playing running back, Vic Nair. Yep.
Right. And then Eric Cador is a D tackle that's going to give trouble at 6'2", 280. And then they have Caden Jones, who's a D lineman linebacker at 240, 6'2". He plays a little running back.
Yeah, true.
They like to rotate them on both sides. They like to utilize guys. I love that when a guy plays offense, defense, especially between the 20s. But St. Charles Catholic is one of the best teams in this class right here, and they've had some tough teams they've played.
They actually shut down. Not many teams can say this, but they shut down Newman and Arch Manning and company when they played earlier this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Dunham would upset them, but I'm taking St. Charles.
I am too.
In a close game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. I really like those two games, Newman and Episcopal, and St. Charles Catholic and Dunham really being really close.
And I would take Dunham if it was at Dunham. But since it's at St. Charles, it's a hard place to play in LaPlace. You know that. You went to a game with me, and I've been to many. St. Charles will bring 5,000 people for this game, just St. Charles.
And I had St. Charles Catholic advance to the state championship, so I have to go with St. Charles Catholic here. So.
There you go.
There we go.
Can't change it.
No, I cannot. My final game is somebody that's a team we talked a lot about LCA. We talked a lot about Newman, Episcopal, St. Charles Catholic, but we're not really talking a lot about Notre Dame. Well, very quiet, too.
The Pios.
Yeah, the Pioneers.
Out of Crowley.
Yep, with Coach Louis Cook. You cannot count out Louis Cook.
And Louis loves this.
Oh, yeah, he does.
He loves that nobody talks about the Pios because he can quietly just go around and motivate his team.
Yep.
He's the best motivator in high school football right now in Louisiana. And, St. Thomas Aquinas is actually a very good team, Jace.
A big win against Pope John Paul, 33-3, and that's an improving program in Pope John Paul.
I saw St. Thomas Aquinas out of Hammond play this year and last year. And I'm going to tell you what, they're well coached and they're very physical, and that's something that you got to be to beat Notre Dame. They got a running back named Devaki Williams,
yes,
who is a stud. I mean,
he's played forever.
He's 230. He's an SEC guy, and he plays running back, linebacker. Nunzio Martello, I love the name. Tight end, D-end, offensive tackle, big-time player. And then you got the typical Notre Dame tough guys. Lucas Simone or Simon at kicker, running back. How many kickers play running back and make all district?
Not many.
Luke Hoffpair, a big-time linebacker. Alex Stevens, a big-time linebacker. Nick Swacker, the quarterback, who's 6'3", and Caleb Como, who's a hard-hitting safety. They're going to always have a good defense. They're going to always run the ball. They're a little more balanced than they've been, Jace. He's gotten a little more balance because his last two quarterbacks could throw it. Swacker can throw it.
Sure.
So I'm going to go with Notre Dame because they can throw it now, and they used to just be one-dimensional. But Louis kind of growing with the times and getting a little more balance. But when they need to go power eye,
oh, they will. It's like the brother and butter.
They're one of the best in the state, and their defense is one of the most underrated in the state.
And if both teams advance, St. Charles Catholic and Notre Dame, that's always a really good one. Even though Frank Monica might not be involved in this game as it was, but it's still two great programs.
You don't want to play Notre Dame in Crowley, and you don't want to play St. Charles in LaPlace.
No.
So whoever gets the home is going to win that one. So you could lose that one if it goes to Notre Dame.
Even though not a lot of games in this bracket, I mean, the games matter.
It's fierce.
The games really matter in that bracket. When we come back, we have two more brackets to go to. We'll talk about Division III. That's like the private of Class 3A and 4A combined. We'll talk about, of course, Walker Howard, St. Thomas, more. We'll talk about U-High and a lot of those teams. But you're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. We'll be right back.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Treads and Care Tire Company located in Central. Call 331-8144. Family owned and operated. It's 1971. That's 331-8144.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Lee, we only got 2 more brackets left. And,
I tell you, I feel like we've been here for a couple of days, but it's fun.
Yep, we're going to the very end, the fourth quarter here, Lee. We got to finish strong. So, Division 2, actually, a private of 3A and 4A combined. We're going to start off with E.D. White. It's really good to get that bye, a well-rested week for a lot of those teams getting a bye to really focus and mentally get prepared because it's a long, draining season physically, and it's really good to get that bye. But they're going to have to play Parkview Baptist, a defensive struggle against St. Michael 21-7. You were at that game, so you saw it, and a couple of special teams plays really made the difference in that win for Parkview to advance.
Parkview has really shocked me, Jace. Stephon LaFleurs has had a great coaching job. They don't have a lot of talent. They don't have any depth. And he's taken every kid capable of playing and made them into players. This is probably the leanest I've ever seen Parkview Baptist on talent. Yeah. And they went out and performed to another level, beating a good St. Michael's team this past week.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
And what really shocks me, and what's really the credit to Parkview staff, is their defense still has that old Parkview Baptist defensive mentality. They're tough, and it's tough to run on them still, even though they play the same 11 guys the whole game just about. They rotate some guys in, but Wyatt Beck is the heart and soul of the defense. Him and Brandon Favre, their defensive ends and linebackers. You can't get past these guys. They're really strong. And Shandon Jones is their big D tackle, nose guard. He's about 290, he's 5'11". But here's the shocker. Nate Goza is their second-team quarterback. He won a playoff game last week. Their starting quarterback was hurt. He's out for the year.
Yeah.
Nate Goza maybe threw 10 passes all year. He threw 14 in the game I went to and completed about 10. And that was, I think, a shocker to St. Michael's because this guy went out and threw the ball, and he's never really thrown it on film against anybody. So Parkview goes to E.D. White, and E.D. White's mostly a junior team.
Sure.
And they got a chance to pull this off. I really think I'm picking Parkview for the upset.
Okay.
These guys believe, and they're dialed in, and E.D. White's the younger team. And I want to mention some of their seniors at E.D. White: Charlie Hunt, linebacker; Ethan Lee, free safety; Colin Gravois, running back, linebacker; and Harrison Ledette, who's also a fullback defensive guy. And they've got a lot of underclassmen. But, look, might be people upset at me at E.D. White, but I'm going with Parkview Baptist. These kids believe.
We'll have to go with E.D. White just because I picked them to go to the state championship game. So I'm riding the Cardinals, and they just proven to me just with some of their wins earlier this year, because I was kind of hesitant on E.D. White this year. And then when they defeated St. James and then when they defeated Lutcher, I was like, okay, I see you out there. So those wins just really proved to me of if they can beat those teams in this bracket, they can pretty much beat anybody in this bracket. Or almost.
Well, I have St. Thomas More going on that side.
Yep.
Because he's back. Walker Howard's back.
Yep.
And I don't see any of those teams beating STM in the playoffs. That's just, we can talk about it. But I think we're going to go to the next game, and that's St. Thomas More.
That's St. Thomas More. And talking about, the playoffs, what they say, get hot at the right time. And those are the teams that usually wins. Not usually the teams that are just dominant all season long. It's the teams that are hot at the right time. Well, that's St. Thomas More, just because, it helps when you get Walker Howard back at quarterback. But, man, 56 points. They are the best pure offense in this whole bracket, especially with Walker Howard back, putting 56 points on the board.
Well, and they had a bunch of new receivers to start the season off, Jace. The good thing is now they got the reps, and they've got 4 senior receivers that just need to step up. And I think they're starting to have that timing down.
Yeah.
Because Walker had never really worked with a lot of these guys.
Right.
And Andrew Morse is one of them, Jack Hines, Anthony Quibido, and Jackson Gayran. Hines played a little bit last year, obviously, but these 4 guys are going to be trouble because now they're all experienced, and they all 4-6 guys are better in the 40. And STM's defense, they're getting a lot of guys back that were hurt besides Walker. which is going to help STM too. They had a lot of injuries.
Right, and their defense has gotten better.
And they're getting healthy, so not good for these other teams.
No, but with Dre Trosclair, by the way, with Dre Trosclair and Liberty, shout out to them because in their first ever season varsity,
unbelievable,
they've won their district and they won a playoff game in their first varsity season with the LHSAA. So congratulations, Coach Trosclair, regardless what happens this game at Olympia, by the way, on Friday. Should be a good one. And you know that what Liberty's going to try to do. They're going to run the football with Caleb Jackson, and hopefully that will limit the possessions and the times Walker Howard touches the football.
I just don't think Liberty's seen anything like STM yet. 4 wide and a future NFL quarterback. They haven't seen this yet, and so it's beyond trying to watch film. You know the thing about Dre and this team, they're all juniors just about.
Yeah.
They're the team to beat next year.
Yep.
And I hate saying that, but I just think the bonus is if you don't win this game, I don't think they will. They're going to be back to be the team to win it with E.D. White. They're the two young teams in this. But St. Thomas More, just too much speed, too many guys to guard. And I just don't think they can guard the spread. It's not something that Liberty has seen locally.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have St. Thomas More winning. I think I have E.D. White and St. Thomas More playing each other. And you talk about Liberty, Caleb Jackson, but also Colin Gross. He's only a junior too.
Oh,
so,
they're all young.
They're all young. So next year is going to be really tough to beat those guys. They're tough to beat already, but it's going to be tough to beat them next year.
And most of their defensive guys are juniors and sophomores. So, I mean, they're going to be one of the best teams in the state, regardless of class, next year.
Well, let's go to the bottom side of the bracket with Loyola Prep advancing 41-0. Jacob Lafitte, their quarterback, kicker, water boy, you name it. I mean, that's pretty much what he does for them. 41 points. I'm sure a lot of them are scored by him, either kicking or scoring. And then looking at the other game, Loyola Prep will have to play Vanderbilt Catholic. Coach Tommy Minton, one of the really the best coaches out there in the state of Louisiana, very underrated, doing a great job with Vanderbilt Catholic. They defeated St. Louis Catholic 35-18. Coach Mathern in his first season with St. Louis Catholic. A pretty good football game. Vanderbilt Catholic found a way to extend their lead late and just run away at the very end. But it was a closer game than that score really indicated, 35-18. So now Loyola Prep will play Vanderbilt Catholic on the bottom side of the bracket.
I'm going to take Loyola Prep to win this.
I agree. Yep.
And the reason I am is not just because of Jacob Lafitte, but because of the linemen. Loyola Prep's got some senior, veteran, 3-4-year starting linemen on the OD line, led by Marshall Bryan, Kenyatta Davis, and Will Rayburn, who they go both sides of the ball, and they do a heck of a job for Jacob Lafitte and all those skill guys. And you said Jacob's a kicker. He can kick them 60 yards.
Yep.
But on the flip side, Vandy Catholic, I saw them in the Jamboree, and they're this is one of the best-looking Vandy Catholic teams I've seen, Jace, in 30 years. Belasso at defensive end, Alexandria, Alex, whatever he wants to be called, is a big-time defensive end for them. They have a very young freshman running back at Vandy that's going to be all-world. And their quarterback. The quarterback's a great player. Dominique Archila, I believe is how you say it. But I'm taking Loyola Prep because they're just a little more athletic. And a little more experienced in the OD line. And Vandy's got almost everybody coming back next year.
Let's see if Coach Minton and Vanderbilt Catholic can prove us wrong, but I have to agree with you. I got Loyola Prep advancing and moving on. Now, the last game, here we go. This is the headliner.
This is a state championship
game.
This
is a state championship matchup in only the second round and quarterfinals. De La Salle, U-High. How many times we've seen this matchup over the last couple of years? And De La Salle, talk about a statement. They beat Terlings Catholic 34-3, and Terlings Catholic is no slouch, to say the least.
Terlings Catholic's pretty good.
Yeah.
De La Salle is as talented as anybody in the state. The problem is their momentum has been slowed down a little bit with injuries and
what happened.
What happened. So I think it's just slowed down their momentum. And but their quarterback at De La Salle, Cole Milford, is incredible.
He's been there forever.
He's a 4-year starter. Look, he's the next Chase Forcade to me, who went to Nichols from Rummel. I think Cole is a phenomenal. He's only 6 foot, but hey, I would build my program around him at Northwestern, Southeastern, Nichols, McNeese, all these programs. With that being said, I just think U-High's best team
in 3 years since they had all the All-Stars. And I think it's a better team than that. I think it's a better team.
Yeah.
And, Brian Beck,
Graham,
Jason Barnes, Derek Graham, like you mentioned, Miller Leach, Eden Stagg at receiver who came over from Southside.
Right. You got Verge's sons, Verge Allsbury's sons.
Christian Granger, Joe Handel, O-lineman, Nick Williams, D-tackle.
Dylan Moses' little brother. That's pretty good.
Jabari Johnson.
Yep.
Roman Petrie, who's committed to Purdue at 6'6".
Yeah, right.
I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
But I think U High has a little bit more speed, and I think stopping the U High run game, you can't stop one guy. You got Beck in, you got Barnes in, you got Graham coming in, you got Moses' little brother.
You're
can
so
run the
balanced,
ball. The O-line for U High is huge. Now, look, De La Salle's O-line is the biggest in this whole class.
Yeah.
But, again, they've had a bunch of injuries. And I think the big part of this game is special teams. U High's got a good kicker. And then De La Salle's got a great punter in Kentrell Millette.
Yeah, right.
Who's Marlon Favorite's son.
Yeah.
Played at LSU, defensive tackle from West Jefferson High School.
Yep.
But the thing about it, I hate to pick this game because
these are the best two teams, in my opinion, in this bracket.
De La Salle has come up short 3 years in a row in the state championship game, right? 2 or 3 in a row.
This will be 2 in a row, but they also fell short to U High a couple years back.
My heart wants to say De La Salle, but I can't pick with my heart because I want De La Salle, but I pick U High to win it all.
Yeah, it's a tough draw because it was just the luck of the draw because I really think this should be a state championship game. It just happens to be on the same side of the ladder.
Whoever wins this game wins the state title.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think St. Thomas More is my pick on the other side. So you have Walker Howard against De La Salle or U High.
Could be, yep.
But I think the winner of this game would beat St. Thomas More in a state championship game. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, whether it's E.D. White, I think it's either going to be E.D. White or St. Thomas More that plays one of those two teams. But either way, I see whoever comes out De La Salle, U High beating either one of those two teams.
A key to this game is De La Salle's got to run the ball. Their best running back's at UL right now.
Yeah, Montrell Johnson.
They miss him. He's the only piece they miss.
Yep.
But Chris Baxter, their fullback, Timothy Donlin, and all those good Caden Jones, those big linemen, can they knock U High off the ball? I don't know. I just think that would be tough to do.
Well, Lee, look at the time. We got one more bracket left. That is Division I.
How long have we been doing this? 8 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yep. It's a long show for y'all guys.
I need to get some water, man.
Well, we have one more bracket left to go, and that is Division I, the private side of Class 5A. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Come and visit the majestic mansion in the marsh, Grove Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge. Grove Savon is the true sportsman's paradise. Grove Savon Lodge has everything for you from fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours. Located south of Lake Charles. Call 337-598-2357 or visit www.grovesavon.com for more information and schedule your trip to the majestic mansion in the marsh, Grove Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise today.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. We have one more segment left to go here. We talk about the second round of the playoffs, both private and public. I cannot wait for Friday. It should be a good one. And speaking of a good one, a good bracket is Division I. That's the private side, Class 5A. It's going to be really tough.
The big boys.
The big boys. So let's get down to it, Lee. Catholic High had a bye in the first round based off their great season, was one of the best teams in the country. And how about the statement St. Aug put on against Archbishop Shaw? Maybe I'm not really surprised that St. Aug won the game, but how they won the game is what surprised me.
Well, we all know St. Aug's very talented. And they had an injury to the quarterback early in the year, I believe. They're trying to get healthy. They're getting healthy. St. Aug's the team, and Scotlandville, they're loaded with talent. It's just a matter of who shows up. If they play as a team, they can beat anybody. They can beat Catholic, Jesuit, John Curtis, any of these teams. So not shocked by that score because St. Aug's. St. Aug gave Zachary a game early this year.
Right.
It went down almost to the wire until the fourth quarter.
Now the question is, can that same talent, that same team, that performance from St. Aug show up again against Catholic High?
I don't know. Catholic has a chip on their shoulder with everything that happened last year, right? Mm-hmm. With the sanctions and everything else, they are a little mad. They're a little upset. And It's a little hornet's nest, and that's good for Coach Semino. And you know what the key is here is the trenches. And the key is going to be Jonathan Beal, Emory Jones, Prince Edwards, one of the best blocking fullbacks I've ever seen for Catholic. Corey Singleton having a big game. Nicholas when he comes in at running back. And Shelton Sampson being the home run guy. I think that Catholic's quarterback, Bill, who's only a sophomore, is super, super mature. And I don't think nothing phases him, so I think he's ready for the task. I think they're going to be able to run the ball at St. Aug, and that's going to kill clock. And, Jace, what I'm getting to is that's going to play keep away from the St. Aug offense, who's got great players on offense. But when you control the clock and you can run the ball, I think it's going to diminish the amount of opportunity St. Aug will get to try and beat Catholic. But offensively, St. Aug has Javion Nicholas, who's one of the best receivers in the state that you've never heard of. Cam East is a great offensive tackle who's 6'7", 300 pounds. And on defense, they're led by Donald Johnson, who is he's a tackling machine. He's got over 100 tackles. He's a phenomenal player. I think he should be a 1AA signee by everybody. But I just think Catholic's got a battering ram on that O-line with Emory Jones and Bill and Prince Edwards and all those other players. And when they run at you, you know, 5 minutes of drive. I mean, it's just hard to get the ball enough. So St. Aug would have to score on every opportunity they get the ball. And that's hard to do.
Tough. That is really tough to do. And Catholic High, you can say from top to bottom, might be arguably the most talented team from top to bottom.
And on top of this, when Catholic punts, they got the best punter in the state, and Kylan Dibbery.
Yeah, there's not really a big weakness that this team has.
So Kylan's averaging almost 50 yards a punt some games.
Yep.
So when you get the ball, you might start on your 5 or your own 3. So, I mean, that's what you're dealing with when you play Catholic. And
not a lot of weaknesses, and that's why they're a favorite to win in Division I. Actually have them winning the state championship. I believe you do too. So, we actually agree there. Now the other matchup on the top side of the bracket, it should be an intriguing one. St. Paul's and Scotlandville both have a bye. Scotlandville is the number 4 seed. Because of the higher seed, the game will be played at Scotlandville. Scotlandville against St. Paul's should be a good one.
Not a good matchup for St. Paul's.
Mm-hmm.
St. Paul's is young on defense outside their D-line. And, look, St. Paul's, their quarterback, Grant Billison, needs a big game. And Brody Rena at receiver, they need to have big games. Danny Sears, the coach's son, Ken Sears' son at fullback and linebacker. But I think it's too much Marlon Gunn and Chance Williams at running back for Scotlandville. Malcolm Richard, the big 6'4" O-lineman, 310, that's a D1. I just think it's too much. I like Josh Lee at DN for Scotlandville. Jace, if Scotlandville doesn't make mistakes, this is going to be tough for St. Paul's to even be in the game. I really think this is Scotlandville.
It's a lot like St. Aug. It's like what team, if this team with the talent shows up and plays together as one, it's tough to beat that Scotlandville team. But like I said, it's what team shows up.
And look, I don't think it's going to be tough for St. Paul's to slow down the run game. If Scotlandville tries to throw it, they have a junior quarterback, and I think Tazzett,
yeah,
is phenomenal at Scotlandville. He looks like the quarterback that played at Georgia now in the NFL with the Bears, who's the quarterback, Carter.
Oh, yeah, right, yep.
But they don't have to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Just run it. And if you run these two running backs, you probably get 300 yards rushing and run the clock out, keep it from St. Paul's, and that's probably how.
Yeah, as far as a 1-2 punch at running back, it's hard to top Gunn and Williams together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough as it gets. But I do agree with you. I have Scotlandville advancing and moving to the next round. Now, the bottom side of the bracket, this is a really good matchup. C.E. Bird and Brother Martin. Now, don't pay attention to the 11 seed, and their Brother Martin was hampered by the penalties. But, I mean, they proved it. How good they are against Rummel, 38-16 in the first round. They scored 31 of those points in the first half. This is a young program for Rummel this year. Nick Monica's done the best that he really could this year concerning the circumstances and all the teams in the Catholic that they play every week. And Bird, on the other hand, new coach. This is a young team that graduated a lot of seniors that went to the state championship last year in Division I. They got a bye. They've actually wrapped up the season pretty well. They actually beat Captain Shreve by a wide margin, 28-10. So that showed that they're coming together. Now, C.E. Bird, Brother Martin. I have Brother Martin winning because I have Brother Martin advancing to this championship game, so I have to root for Brother Martin. But I can see C.E. Bird giving them a little bit of a run.
Now, 2 weeks ago, I would have picked Brother Martin. But Bird has changed how good they are. When they started the season, they were young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like a strawberry being green, and then it turned red, right, to pick. But
yeah.
Bird has become another good team, and they're very, very athletic. Here's the key to the win here. Brother Martin's not as good running the ball this year as they've been in the past. So the key to the game is Mama Hat, the quarterback, against Bird's DBs.
Yep.
If Brother Martin can't throw it, I think Bird can stop their run game. But if Brother Martin can't throw the ball, it's going to come down to 4 DBs for Bird defending. They've got great DBs. And that's led by Tyler Poland, Ryan Todd, John Jordan, and Jacarian LaCour. So those 4 guys are seniors. I think that's the difference in the game. I think Bird's got enough offense to do some damage. I have a close win, Bird.
Okay, so we disagree with each other there, Brother Martin.
Because it's at Bird, too.
Yeah, that is true as well. Being at Bird, and Brother Martin's going to have to make the travel up north in the Shreveport from New Orleans. Brother Martin and Bird, and let's see how much those penalties really cost because of the seeding, too, because you know that Brother Martin would probably have been a 3 or a 2 seed right now with the schedule, with the teams that they did beat this year.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna just leave it as that. We'll move it on to the last game, and that is Jesuit and John Curtis. Now I know Jesuit defeated John Curtis earlier this year, but yeah, I mean, anytime you can beat John Curtis, I mean that's pretty impressive. And even though we're talking about Jesuit, and you have Jesuit going to the state championship with Jack Riviere and really all those guys, a great team. The defensive line you talked about a lot. Dennis Daugherty as well at linebacker. But John Curtis, I mean, it's kind of like the same with Louis Cook. I mean, he loves his position right now, JT, about being, under the radar, not talked about as much. They're just coming off a very impressive 54-14 win against Holy Cross. Now, does John Curtis get revenge? I know you picked Jesuit to go to the state championship, so I know you won't go with Jesuit. But how do you see this game really coming out, like, at the very end?
Well, I think Jesuit is very inspired because Curtis had beaten them like 4 or 5 times in a row prior to the win this year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not the first time they played twice in a year. So Curtis beat them last year twice and the year before twice. And a lot of Jesuit Blue Jay people remember that. They remember 4 losses in 2 years to John Curtis. Now, John Curtis has a good defense, and it's very underrated. And they held tight with Edna Carr for a while this year. But Jared Washington's a good DN. Trey Norman's a very good defensive lineman. Siobhan Lane. And then you throw in Connor Orgeron at linebacker. That's a very good nucleus, Jason, some good DBs. The thing is, Curtis is not a dominant offense like they've been in the past. They do have a senior quarterback. They do have a pretty good O-line. But this is a better Jesuit. This is a very good D-line at Jesuit, and I think that's going to be the difference. They can put 7 guys in a rotation for Jesuit, and that's why they can play with Catholic High. And that's going to be tough for Curtis to win this game. If Jesuit doesn't have any turnovers, I got Jesuit by a couple of touchdowns in this game probably. But I want to mention the whole D-line of Jesuit. Andrew Besh has really come on. He's got over almost 15 sacks this year. He's been a shock at 6'2", 210 pounds coming off the DN spot. You got Dennis Daugherty, you mentioned. You got another linebacker, number 43, Jack Canizero. You got Joseph Barnett, a big D lineman. You got Christian Jackson as a big D lineman. They got a freshman nose guard that's 290. Jesuit's a different team. They're a better running game team. They got the quarterback, Jake, who's had a great year. They got great receivers. If you're looking at just team-wise, Jesuit's just a little better. Now, this is not going to be a blowout.
Because JT and John Curtis,
Because Curtis has a good defense.
Right.
And Jesuit, I'm just banking on they're going to find a way because their running game's better. And Jesuit's O-line is better than it's been. So I think Coach Manally's done a phenomenal job in a short time at Jesuit. It's his first year.
Yeah.
Look what he built at De La Salle.
Yeah.
And look what he's doing at Jesuit in a short time. I've got him playing in the state title game against Catholic High, your alma mater. I got Catholic winning in a close game.
Yeah.
But this is going to be, 10, 14-point game. It's going to be close for at least probably 3 quarters, I think.
Yeah, should be a good one in Division I. So, yeah, that wraps up everything. All the playoff brackets went through all the way from 1A in the public side to 5A and Division I to Division 4. When there's 9 brackets to cover, I mean, it's hard to really cover all of it, but we did.
You gotta love this.
Yeah,
you gotta love this.
You have to love this. You have to love this. I cannot wait for Friday. I cannot wait for Thursday. Starting off with Madison Prep and St. James. It should be a great football weekend, and we're excited for next week when we do this again. And there's going to be actually less of these programs on here because I'm not sure if y'all know this, but all the programs that are on the table are still in the playoffs. So we're going to do a thing right here where if there's any programs that are left, it's only the teams that are left in the playoffs, so we're going to eliminate them. It's going to be less and less of these programs as we go.
Jace, you know how I know how many games I've been to? Because I always get a program. You know that. I even have y'all get programs when you go. I've got over 5,000 programs. So I guess I've been to 5,000 games.
There you go.
So this is just one little box of programs over the last 28, 29, 30 years. So But yeah, I'm ready to get another program this week, and but I'll watch a lot of games, as you know. So if you're a mom and dad soon, go to my game. Well, I can't. I'm not a rubber band, but no, I try to go see who I haven't seen yet or who I haven't seen on Huddle.
Right, and that's a good thing about the playoffs. A lot of teams, usually have to make the trip to Shreveport or Monroe or, a long trip, but these teams come over here.
And I don't know where I'm going yet, so I don't want to say that today.
Right,
I just don't know. I'm going to make a decision tomorrow.
Right. Well, I know where I'm going because I have to broadcast it, but I'll be there at the Episcopal Newman game, so it should be a good one on Friday.
Not a bad game.
Not a bad game to go to. I'm very excited about it. And next week, I'm sure we'll talk more playoff football. We'll talk about the third round. It's hard to believe we're getting to that Thanksgiving type of week where all these teams prepare for the semis, and sooner or later it'll be Dome Week. It'll be the state championship week.
I just want to wish everybody safe travels. Yeah, that's what's most important. Whether you're by bus, the team, or your mom and dad or grandparent, safe travels. Try and travel at a decent time and talk to the people that you don't know that you're playing against to say, what's the best route? What's the safe route? But I wish everybody a blessed weekend and a safe travel. Be careful on the roads, traveling 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours.
Right.
Some families are going to have to leave at like 8 in the morning to go to the game 7 o'clock that night.
And coaches, just to let y'all know, if we pick it for y'all and pick against y'all should be happy either way. If you pick for us, it's like, hey, yeah, that's right, pick on our side. If you're picking against us, like, well, we're going to prove y'all wrong.
Well, Jace, here's the answer to that. We can't be wrong or right. We're never going to win on that one.
Yeah, right.
Because the coach is always right. So,
that's true.
But they all want you to pick against them.
Yeah.
But if you do it, like you said, they're going to, you didn't pick my team.
Yeah, right. So either way, we lose. So that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But it should be good. I'm excited for the playoffs coming up. We appreciate everybody that supported us in the first week, all of our sponsors, and you'll see all these sponsors coming up as we wrap the show up. But we appreciate everybody for supporting us. Make sure to go to YouTube and like, share, download, go to Podbean. We have our video podcast out there. Make sure to like, share, download. Get the word out to as many people as possible, and it'll, as long as we do that, the longer we'll be out here.
That's right.
That's all that matters.
Let's keep it going and let everybody know because, word is, don't think that your teammate knows. He might not know. So let them know. Send them the show and share it. And hey, look, if you didn't like something,
send it in. I mean,
yeah, we want comments coming in, and I know we got a comment saying we didn't mention Kinder enough. Well, hopefully we mentioned Kinder a little bit more this time around, and I know they won last week, and hey, that's a 20 seed. They have a chance to make a really deep playoff run again, but they got a meet, so we'll see what happens to Kinder. But yeah, send your comments to us and to me, myself, and Lee, and we'll. Any recommendations y'all have for the show, that'll be very greatly appreciated. But yeah, I appreciate the time, Lee, as always. I know Lee spent a lot of the morning and the last night and wrote all his notes together, get ready for today's show. But the beautiful part about this, Lee, is that the more we go into it, the less and less teams we can talk about to make it easier for you.
So it'll only be an hour next week.
Yep. So 2 hours today, might be an hour next week, but make sure to tune in. Same time, time this week, and next week on Wednesday we'll recap a little bit of this round, what occurred to get you to the third round, but we'll talk a lot about the next round of the playoffs. Survive and move on. We'll appreciate Lee Brecheen. I'm Jace LeJeune saying so long. Have yourself a good day and a good weekend, and make sure to tune into us with our audio podcast on Friday. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Have yourself a good one.
The Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen's Louisiana High School Football Playoff Prediction Show is presented by Medine's Collision Center. Take control, choose Medine's. Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Tire Company, the tires you need, the service you want. And Harvey Autos, the name you have trusted for years.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.